Welcome, guys. We're back with Distant Worlds 2, and today is actually, or yesterday, essentially was officially the launch of the Mercantile update for Distant Worlds 2. So we're going to be sort of going through that a bit today, and yeah, really just sort of getting on with our game, playing as the Haakonish, which is one of the two Mercantile factions in the game. So what I might do is I'm going to keep on playing the one that we're actually playing. I don't think there's been any real change to things that force us into sort of starting a new game. So we did actually have one update, which we did actually have to start again, which we did, and so I think we're okay. We've been playing on these versions like 1.3.3.6 for the last week or so, and this is now the launch version. And before that, I think we started a new game on 1.3.3.5. So I think we're sort of okay with the updates. Anyway, I'll just start a new game so you can sort of see the difference, I guess, between the two Mercantile factions. And just click on across. That is a bit noisy. That should still all be okay, I think. Might just reduce that even more. Right, we'll just keep on going back through until we get to these different areas. So this is actually now like all of the different races, including the DLC factions that have come into the game as well. The only faction that hasn't been updated now is the Actarians. Now I'm not sure when they're due for their update. This is actually my favourite faction of all of the actual races in Distant Worlds 2. So I'm looking forward to this one actually coming through. But it doesn't have all of the specific things that actually happen within the actual game itself. It's just got very, very basic bits and pieces. Every time I see this, I wish that this would change to just have one big long list of all of the factions and what they think of you. Would make it's just, I don't know why they haven't done that. It would be easier for all of us if that was the way it was actually done. And also in brackets, actually, what they think of you, which is also very, very important. It's like this is what you think of them, but it also should be what they think of you. So that would be a very, very good little addition to the user interface. If anyone from the dev team has actually ever watches this video. Anyway, this is we are going to be talking about the new factions that are coming in. So, well, not the new ones, the ones that have been rehashed. So, all of the others, like we've got the Artooks came in with the DLC just quite recently. Everything else has got like these very specific changes that then sort of make the faction play very, very uniquely. It's sort of funny because it makes it play uniquely in a lot of ways, but I find that the biggest thing is actually the ship designs, and they've always been there. The ship designs really push the different factions have got very, very different types of things they can put on their ships, and like not just items, but just the actual structure of their ships makes such a big difference. And so anyway, just the combination of having these unique racial traits as well, like these special features, along with all the other things that sort of make them makes the game extremely unique. Hi Christotep, how are you going? And hi to anybody else that's joined us as well. Boscara is one of the originals. Again, all of these been fleshed out with very different things that sort of then push them into a play style as well, which is and not in a bad way at all. Like it rewards playing thematically with the different factions. Like the Boscara are supposed to be aggressive. The Daots are supposed to be aggressive as well, as are the Gizari, and these are all three bug factions. Then we've got the Haakonish, which are reptilian. So these are the ones that we're playing at the moment. And if we have a bit of a look to see what they've actually got, so they've now been fleshed out, with their big upgrade, which upgrades the look of the ships and sort of rebalances how they then operate and what they then go and do. So when we have a look at our special features, we actually have a number of these which are quite interesting. And we'll have a look at maybe we'll actually look at that one before we get into the game. So let's go back to the Tekans, which are the other Mercantile faction. So Tekans are a small furry rodent-like race with 3 eyes. They seem to value in washing regularly and thus tend to smell. Tekans take special interest in hoarding all kinds of mechanical junk. So these are small hoarders. Essentially, they're rodents. They're a rodent from the rodent family. There's another one. I think the Urangans. I think is another faction which hasn't come into the game yet, but they're also like a rodent faction which will come at some point. I think they're the only two sort of rodent base factions in the game. Yeah, Tekans inhabit the vastly desert wastelands of sandy desert, rocky desert, and desert savanna planets. These are like the scavengers from Star Wars that are sort of on the I forget what they're called. They're sort of driving around on with their massive thing where they picked up the droids initially in the first Star Wars movie. I can't remember. Sand people? No, it's not the sand people. Sand people are more aggressive. These are sort of like those scavenging traders. They're sort of like their personality is to be like that. They've got high mining rates. They have other abilities. But let's have a look at their special features. So this is actually what the Tekans actually have, which is unique to them. So rapid modular construction. So all ships, bases, and planetary facilities are built 30% faster than normal. So they build quickly. So which is actually, this is sort of like a faction that if you let them get a foothold, they will actually just expand very, very rapidly because they can do all they breed like rats. Because they are rats. They've got natural traders, so -5 threshold to sign new trade treaties. So they're more likely to be in trade treaties. They're a mercantile faction. Nomadic population, so naturally dispersed population provides +30% resistance to bombardment and ground combat losses. So they do actually, they survive longer. They can sort of get into their little rat holes and look after themselves. Desert dwellers, so Tekan militia troops gain +50% attack and defence strength, and all other Tekan troops, that is infantry, armour, etc., gain 20% attack and defence strength when fighting on any desert planet, sandy desert, rocky desert, and desert savanna. There's a big change to the Tekans. The Tekans have always been like the one of the weakest of the combat factions in the game, but no longer really if they're defending. Now, this militia troops are recruited from the native population. Like if you've got a Tekan population, they will actually they will be the troops that are then recruited on these sandy planets, on a desert planet, and so they end up having a lot better militia attack and defence strength. Well, it's only going to be defence strength because you never can attack with them. So it's basically a 50% defence addition to what they do. They're always weaker troops, the militia troops, but it does actually raise them up to being quite powerful in terms of their defence of their homeworlds, which is interesting. This is actually something that I've again, it sort of just it colours the complexion of the Tekans themselves, and also the fact that because they're if we do end up fighting the Tekans on a sandy planet, we're going to see different bonuses in the list of planetary bonuses for the Tekans. And again, having the +20% attack and defense strength when fighting on any desert planet for their normal troops is also, I mean, it's not really enough of a boost to make them into a powerful faction, but it does give them enough to be able to at least compete on those planets, which they couldn't really do before. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll just deviate off. If we go down, where is their where is it? Here it is. This is a typical infantry. They only show the infantry. They never show anything else. Attack there is 65, and a defence there of 98 is very, very low. Now, they get a +20% to this attack or defence, so they get a little bit more. So they're going to be sort of like attacking at around about 80 and defending, what would that be, around about, say, 120. So that's sort of what they're going to be. So if we think of 80 and 120 as their attack and defence for infantry, if we have a look at the humans are actually slightly overpowered. But if we have a look at the humans as an example, just so we've got like a bit of a baseline, and you can see there, the humans, their strike trooper brigade is already stronger than that anyway. So like the humans are still going to be able to beat the Tekans, but they're going to be a little bit stronger when they do come in. So essentially, they're like natively, they're like almost double the combat abilities of a Tekan troop. The Mortallans are the strongest these are the strongest of the actual factions. The humans are pretty strong as well. We can see 140 and 210, so they're more than double what the Tekans actually have. A smallish one that would actually then sort of be similar would be the Artuks back and through here. These also are fairly weak in terms of what they do. So they've got 68 and 102. So they're slightly stronger than the Tekans, but they don't have the boost on the desert worlds. Just recurring saying robotic troops might be much viable for the Tekans early. Absolutely. The robotic troops, now the robotic troops don't get the bonus, but it's like even if the Tekans build them, but the robotic troops, that's my understanding anyway, but the robotic troops are a cheaper version that have about the same combat abilities as the Tekans, but they cost about half the maintenance and half the cost to build. So robotic troops for the Tekans and for these weaker factions end up being quite a good alternative. So the Tekans can actually end up building robotic troops to do their fighting for them. So that's actually but they do get this little bit of a boost along, but it doesn't make them all powerful. It just gives them a little bit more of a fighting chance. You could almost argue to go to plus or minus 40% with the militia being sort of maybe even plus with an additional defense of like 100% defense would be maybe that's too much. Anyway, that's it's interesting anyway with what they actually do have. So they've got so that's the Desert Dwellers ability that they end up having. Galactic Nomads. This is actually fairly interesting as well. This is actually would be a fun way to play the Tekans. So Galactic Nomads, when a Tekan faction has only one colony, then they can choose to abandon that planet and become a refugee fleet in search of a new home. The full population of the last colony is loaded into a single colony ship. All previous ships and bases are lost, with the exception of the small refugee fleet. To activate Galactic Nomads, select your last colony and click the Galactic Nomads action button under the selection panel. So you can actually sort of play the Tekans where you end up just abandoning your home world. If you've only got one world, you can do it. So you can then sort of go off and look for other things. Or you may find a planet that you think, oh wow, that's much better than this world. So you can then just go off. I don't know if you'd ever do it, to be honest. I can't really see a benefit other than because what you would tend to then just go and do is just go and settle the other world, So why would you do it? I don't know. Anyway, it's an option. Wander time. When a new colony is established, migration draws to the new colony is greatly increased for 5 years. This allows them to get up on their feet very quickly. You'll often find that the Tekans in the games end up being very, very powerful if they can survive the wars, because they don't defend well, but they do grow extremely well. Like they actually can really sort of pump out their colonists and end up being all over the place. So you'll quite often find by the time you get to the mid and late game, there'll be Tekan worlds that have been taken over by Mortallans and things like this, where the population is still Tekan, because the Tekans did this initial rush out to sort of, in fact, and that's probably the one thing, like the Tekans probably of all the factions are one that can actually do like a bit of a colony rush. Mostly, often it's just not viable for anyone else. Have a quick drink of water. Oh, you Star. I don't know if I said hello before. So hi, Mad have Minon is saying the robotic troops are cheaper and they get the overwhelming bonus faster. Yeah, I guess that's the thing. Like, at least you can actually just have heaps and heaps of them. But they are very, very weak. I've never really bothered with them, except when I have played the Tekans. So, hi Thorn Element saying, good morning, Daz. Do you know the ETA for the next DLC? I'm not sure. Sorry, it must be in the early new year, I would guess. I'm guessing it's going to be Shadow Rising, because you can see there it's actually Shadows Rising, sorry, with an S on the end of it. But that's not installed. I am on the beta, but I haven't actually participated in the beta yet for that one. So it must be. Well, when it gets closer, I'll probably be told, and then I'll start to actually have a look at it. But I don't want to load it in because I don't want it to then upset what I'm currently playing. I want to just keep on sort of doing these videos. Anyway, so the Great Backdoor Hunt. So Tekan players can manually initiate a Great Backdoor Hunt at any desert colony for 25,000 credits once every 5 years. The outcome of the hunt will vary, but will always provide some benefits, so typically an empire-wide happiness bonus and a development bonus at the colony. So that's something that they can do again to enhance their abilities to actually grow their colonies quickly. And also happiness really is such an important a dynamic in the game. Like it really has such a big bearing on everything in the game. Happiness really is the key to so much of what we do in the game, which I can talk about that in detail if you guys are interested. I can sort of go through just what happiness means in terms of the and I think it's important to actually just mention that, just so that you're aware that when you do get a boost to happiness, it means a lot more money, means a lot more stability, it means all sorts of different things. So but typically it just relates, like it means more money coming in. Salvage King. So when a Tekan ship discovers loot from salvaged ship debris, they may sometimes have the opportunity to forfeit the initial discovery in exchange for a chance to instead find better loot by searching harder. However, sometimes pursuing this option will lead no further benefits, in which case nothing will be gained from the salvage. So that's interesting. Like, that's actually sort of more just typical loot, not tech. It's interesting. Like, I always like to get tech. So, but anyway, that's the Salvage Kings. This is what they do. Fragile hulls. This is actually another interesting little thing that's now come in. So all military ship hulls are 20% smaller, making them more fragile in combat. Now, what that means is it's not the internals. They can still got the internal slots, but it's almost like the wall of the hull is 20% weaker than what it was. And so what it means is that if you're taking damage, there's less damage to then destroy the actual Tekan ships, so they're easier to kill off the actual with the hull itself. So you've still got your shielding, like you've got the shield on the outside, then you've got your armor as the next layer. That doesn't change, but then the hull on the inside, the actual core that houses all of the componentry, the component numbers stay the same, but the actual hull itself is diminished in terms of its overall size, which means it can't take as much damage before it blows up. Unique leader trait, so Wanderer, so plus 20% leader quality, causing more rapid skill progression. That's interesting. Unique leader trait Haggler, so plus 5% trade income. Unique scientist trait Tinkerer, so plus 5% high-tech research and 5% industrial research. The high-tech research and industrial research are collections of research areas, so they're sort of like they span, I guess, different disciplines. I can't remember which ones are which, but like sensor research, for example, is a specific branch of research, but the high-tech and industrial broader, so they actually encompass a lot of them. So we've got a fair few different ones in through there. I'll just quickly finish this one off. We're nearly done there. So unique ambassador trait Bargainer, so again plus 5% trade income, and unique spy trait Unnoticed, so plus 10% concealment. They can sort of just that means that they can sort of sneak and do things a bit stronger than what they could previously. Anyway, that's sort of just a bit of a summary of those. I'll just read a few more of the comments here. So Menon is then saying, likely January and February. Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably about the right timing. So Team Games is saying, can you give a summary of the Slytherin show? Well, I'm going to actually do another video on it. It's very important for Slytherin, the Slytherin Next show, because it does highlight what their direction is for the coming year, and so it sort of pushes a lot of games towards us. In a really quick summary, and I will be doing an actual video on it in the coming days, like probably over the weekend, because what I did was yesterday I actually got you guys to vote on what you liked or didn't like about the game, just in terms of just basically sort of from a must buy down to a complete pass on the game itself. And so that was really interesting actually to sort of see what your what the actual people were looking at there with the games. But there are some games that are coming out that what is it? Is it Bolt Action? Is that the one? There was one that was really looked really good. I can't wait for that one to actually come. There was no talk about Shadows Rising, which I was sort of hoping that there would be. It may have been like in the first 10 minutes because I missed the first 10 minutes. It's also there was no deal. There was no talk about Distant Worlds, which really was. I assumed that there would be. That was even just the omission of Distant Worlds was interesting. The omission of Shadow Empire was also interesting, but technically, I guess that's a Matrix game. Actually, these are both technically Matrix games, both Distant Worlds and Shadow Empire. So maybe that was it. Maybe that was the reason. But although it is now, they are both firmly inside the stable of Slytherin. But I think that they were mainly focusing on sort of just a broader market, more so than these very, very specific style games. I think that the actual, like the broad market essentially for Slytherin seems to sort of now be, I don't know, sort of going into all sorts of different areas that they really haven't sort of touched on before. They were very much a war game type publisher, and now they're sort of like, they seem to be sort of expanding out a little bit into other areas. But there was some, so we'll put out a video, and it'll be a shortish video, just going through, I guess, the big announcements that they did actually make. But yeah, there's a lot of things where, particularly with what people were voting on, where they weren't that interested in it, like the old grognards, which sort of tend to watch my faction, my content, weren't all that excited by a lot of what they saw. But there was a number of it that they quite liked the look of as well. They also released, of course, the RuneQuest Warlords yesterday as well, and so I did a video for that one, and that was actually that's an interesting game. And I say interesting because it's actually got a lot of really good mechanics in it. So the actual combat mechanics of that game is quite cool, but the voice acting is atrocious. It's not atrocious, actually. That's unfair. It's actually, the voice acting is good, but often inappropriate, and so it can be annoying. Anyway, that's sort of where we are there. So we'll actually be putting out a video on that in the coming days. Steps in saying so more. Actually, if you are interested, going back to that one, the video that I did yesterday where where we sort of were watching it live, you can just go and I haven't done an index for it, but you could just go and just look at the little voting thing. And just have a look at that, because you'll be able to sort of get to the end of each one of those very, very quickly and just see all the games and what people thought of them. And I must say I was more positive about most of the games than what the actual chat was. So that was actually fairly interesting. So, hi Battle Mode, how you going? So, anyway, so we just keep on going. So Steps in is saying, so more swarm tactics rather than a few big ships. Not necessarily with the Tekans. The Tekans are an interesting faction. Just keeping on with the Tekans. They've got some unique weapons, and the thing that they actually have is this early area weapons and early ion weapons. These allow disabling of ships, and they have the super iron bomb and the iron bomb in through here. The large iron bomb they get pretty early on in the game, and this is actually a mass disabling weapon. You don't want lots of small ships in around that, and it does do friendly fire. So, and again, their overall ship designs are not great. Like they're pretty crappy. So in this sense, having the iron bomb, the actual layout of their ships is chaotic. The way that they're sort of structured, and so the combination of all those different things just means that they've got to be. Having swarms of them is not a good idea, because they're going to end up disabling their own ships to a large degree. Anyway, that's sort of the Tekans. So we've got yes, Battleman saying, did they finally update the Haakonish? Yes, they did. Yes, so we've been playing actually as the Haakonish for a little while. We're going to just talk now about the Haakonish, so we'll get into those in just a minute. So Battleman saying, I really like that race, although they were fun to play. Wonder what they have done there. We'll talk about that one right now. Team Games is saying thank you, and Torn Nellerman saying bolt action. I think you should have played totally grognardy miniature war games to be thrilled with that idea. And I was, yeah. I didn't play war games. When I was a kid, I used to play toy soldiers, like just little airfix toy soldiers, and I loved playing that. It was sort of funny. I grew up in an army base, like a military base, and it was everyone played with toy soldiers. And then when we moved away to sort of join, like to go back and live in normal society, no one played with toy soldiers. So it was sort of funny, actually. It was really quite interesting. Battleman's saying that lol, Daz playing Space Rats. No, I'm not going to play them. I just wanted to cover them because it's the other faction that has been fleshed out. The two Mercantile factions, Tekans and Haakonish. We'll talk about Haakonish in just a minute. So, hi Starmage. Starmage is saying, one thing I remember playing Tekans 1 to 2 years ago was the iron bomb disabling my own fighters, as the fighters loved to blob behind the enemy ships back then. Fighters move better nowadays, but they still can get caught in those iron bombs. The iron bombs are a really interesting sort of development. Bioff saying also a weird thing with Tekans is that they have lots of early access to strike craft, but the iron bomb also nukes all your strike craft. Yes, now they're a unintelligent, confusing little faction, a bit like the Artooks. So they do have their own sort of personality, which is quite interesting. Yeah, no, I tend to not use the iron bombs, but you're almost compelled to because of the layout of their ships. What I might do is I might just, before we quickly go off and do the Haakonish, I'll quickly show you what I mean. Like if I just go into the actual game itself, let's just quickly start a game, playing as the Tekans, and I'll show you what I mean. Now, iron bombs disable ships. That's really what they're there for. They sort of bring down shields. They stop hyper jumps. They do things like that. So it is a good way to cause chaos in amongst a fleet of ships. They can be quite strong in that sense. So Starmo just saying, I guess strike craft need select cautioning settings so they always stay at maximum range. Yeah, I guess that probably is a way to do it actually. So I'll just this is the Tekan Solar Empire. I think in this one we've got multiple worlds that we sort of have got control over. So I can't trigger that special setting with what we actually ended up having. If we have a quick look at their ship designs now. I always find that the best way to actually evaluate a faction is to look at their frigates. So if we have a look at the frigate and actually just go and, if I just do an upgrade. So the actual designs themselves, this is the actual ships. So they're a bit sort of all over the place. But the weird thing about their ships is that they mainly have, the bigger firepower is behind the ship. This is the back of the ship. So that's the front of the ship here. And it's just, so they've got a weapon there, which is if we have a look at the actual weapons that they've got, the 19s mean that they're actually only small, so they can only take up to 19-ton mounts, but it does actually have like a large mount, but it fires from the back of the ship, and so the most powerful attacks that they end up having are actually here with up to 120 tons. Now the iron bomb is a 48-ton weapon. So that's sort of where that one is. That's where it has actually placed that one in through there. It has actually placed a torpedo at the front with the iron bomb at the back. And so in this case, the actual frigate design that it's got will actually, the iron bomb I think the iron bomb is a seeking weapon. Yeah, this is a seeking weapon. So it can still fire and hit the front, but it essentially is designed for the ships to be running away, firing iron bombs back to try to then sort of disable ships. But that means that if you've got like lots and lots of fighter craft in behind them, in close to the enemy ships, they're going to be caught up in the iron blast as well, which sort of is fairly interesting. So it's a very interesting faction to play, but mainly because of this sort of dynamic on their ships. Like most of the other factions, like the Bosskar are the opposite. Like everything points to the front. So the Bosskar are all about attack and not about defense. Because what happens is, typically in a normal game, is that fighter craft will come in and the ships will still be moving around. So they'll get in behind the enemy ships and actually blast them to pieces. And this is actually the secret to destroying Bosskaran ships, is that they often don't have good defense from the rear. So the small craft will actually tend to cut apart Bosskaran ships because they don't take much damage. You can see through here, these guys here have got like 225 degrees in through this other side, so they can still fire to the front, they can still fire to the back as well. So there's actually a bit of a, they've got a little bit extra with their actual firing from these two areas, but they're only small mounts, so they're not going to do much damage. We'll just go and cancel those and go back out again. So we'll go back and now have a look at the Haakonish. So if we exit to main menu, yeah, so the base game is now just updated to this version here, which is now the new one. So if we go into, I'll just go into start new game just so we can go back through the Haakonish now. So if we now have a look at the other Mercantile faction, so that's the Tekans that we were just looking at through there. The Haakonish, which is who we are playing in our current run, and I'll keep on playing this current run. These are different. Like the Tekans, with the Tekans, their aggression is -10, which means like aggression is sort of like a scale, from being friendly to being aggressive. And so in this case, the aggression for them, they're more friendly than not. Caution in through here as well. Like the degree of caution, this one goes from caution to chaotic. And so these are slightly chaotic. So they're friendly, chaotic. Dependability is just neutral. Reproduction rate is high at 7%. Migration tendency is 30%, which they're adventurous. And the assimilation rate, they're very compliant. So once you take over a Tekan world, that's why you'll find so many Tekan worlds essentially sitting there, and basically like people can easily take them over, easily assimilate them. They become productive worlds very, very quickly. Let's have a look at the Haakonish now in comparison. And so these are an aggressive faction. So these are actually much more likely to sort of go to be aggressive or take a violent action. So they're sort of like they're fairly aggressive, not as aggressive as, for example, the Boscara, who are very aggressive at +40. These are also reckless, -20. So they're actually sort of completely reckless there. The Tekans are sort of tending towards that recklessness, but the Haakonish, you'll see, are aggressive but cautious. So they actually do have. They think things through and will only sort of use their aggression when it sort of suits them, whereas the Boscarans are likely to be chaotic with their aggression. So Boscarans as neighbours can be a bit of a wild ride. Dependability, they're very unreliable. So in this case, the Haakonish are not going to be friends, whereas the Tekans, for example, were just neutral. Boscarans are also going to be very unreliable. So if we have a look at those different factions, humans here will be neutral as well in this sort of instance. You can see that the humans are slightly more aggressive than not as well in the game. But the Haakonish, so the reproduction rate is only 5%. That's typical. Humans will be 6% in through there. Boscarans will be high at 8% because they're a bug faction. Most of the bug factions, this one's a bug faction that is actually very, very low, and then the Gizarians will be high as well, +9%. These are the bug factions in through this other side. The Artuks will also be very, very high with their reproduction rate. Funny, I thought the Tekans were higher than 7%. Anyway, Haakonish are sort of low at 5%, so they don't grow very, very fast. Migration tendency is -10. They prefer to stay where they are. They don't like to go off, and so the settlements that you end up having, you're not going to have planets that will grow quickly through migration. They're going to have to sort of, they still will grow through migration, but not at the same rate as, for example, Tekans. So if you have Tekan, let's just say that you've got Haakonish and you've got a Tekan world somewhere, you may find that ultimately Tekans will be all over your empire, sort of, and so you may have to put up blocks on your planets to sort of stop them if you are concerned about that. They will weaken, I guess, the overall abilities that you actually have, because you will end up, ultimately, the more that you have of a faction in your empire, the more their bonuses will then kick in as well. So you will find that you'll end up with a balance between the bonuses, and then the Tekans will have, they've got their own bonuses in through there. I thought they had some negatives as well, but they don't. So that's actually not too, well, maybe that's not too bad, actually, having the Tekans sort of in amongst what you're actually then going and doing. Anyway, so that's where we are. So these are like if a world of Haakonish is taken over, they're not going to comply. They're going to basically be very resistant to assimilation. These are quite xenophobic. The Haakonish. So anyway, that's sort of where they are. They like marshy swamp worlds. They're good with engine research. They're not good with diplomacy, which is sort of funny, with them being a mercantile faction. So they need to sort of almost use dominance and aggression to be able to then get the trade deals that they so badly want. And the trade deals really are the key to playing as the Haakonish now, with the new updates that they've actually had. So I'll have a look at the comments just before we get into the actual special features. War weariness reduction, they can stay in war for long. Their Tekans should have negatives on that one, I thought. No, they're just 0. Okay, that's fine. If you don't see anything, if the bonus doesn't show something, like there's a lot of bonuses in the game. If it doesn't show up, it just means it's on 0, which is fine. The other thing it has is the facility construction. Construction speed here is -10%. So it actually takes us a long time to build on the planets. And so that's actually an aspect of what's going to happen. That compounds also with what we're going to see in the special features. Just read through some of the comments again now. So, what do we get up to? Star Major's in saying, I wonder how much Tekan's ship stations changed with the update. Remember that the freighters were too fat to fly back into the Star Dock and always use shuttles for cargo. I don't know, actually. I really don't know. Can mix in some large torpedoes too with the iron bomb spam. Yes, it's sort of well, if you get like at 19 with the other ones, you don't really get a lot of say in what can happen with the Tekan ships. They're weak ships. They're not really built for space combat. So I'm just saying cautious combat settings. So a friend to the Tekan ships. Yeah, if we can show that in the game. Like you got 3 different settings, essentially, or 4 different settings, where you can actually then go through how you want your ships to behave in combat. And so for the Tekans, you want them to keep their distance, so you can play with your ships set to cautious. In most cases, you want to set them to aggressive, no matter what, except for the Tekans, because you don't want to be near those iron bombs. Actually, that's not true. A lot of the factions do benefit by having cautious settings. But quite often, if you're playing an aggressive game, you'll be going to be wanting having aggressive ships. Okay, so Bioff is saying can go large missile strike craft or iron bomb torpedo, both work well. Yeah, need to go out, have a nice night. Thanks, Bioff. Star Major saying 65% all discounted for the week. Yeah, actually, we didn't mention that. This week, Distant Worlds is 65% off, so that's a good deal for Distant Worlds. Actually, it's like I remember when it first got to 50%, and I thought, wow, we're not going to see that again. But like 65% off at the moment is very, very good. Just Ricarian is saying, I bought the Artux and Wakaris DLC 2 days before the sales began. Well, it's only 10%, it's still worth it. It's a great DLC, that one. And just saying we'll be interested with Securans being added at some point, the king and queen of reproductive rates. Yeah, that's I really like the Securans from the original game, and the Quamino, not the Quamino, the Kyrians, I forget what they're called. Anyway, the super intelligent faction with the giant heads. I used to like them as well, sort of like the typical sort of alien style characters. Star Major saying, I played a lot with Securans back in Distant Worlds 1. It will be awesome to see their ships in Distant Worlds 2. I think they're a whitish kind of Xenox-like or so. Yeah, I think with more of an organic sort of feel to them, I think, from what I can remember. Star Major saying I might be remembering wrong. I'm in the same boat. Anyway, so I hope the Securan ships are curvy. I think they will be. They have to be. All right, so now just having a look at the other on YouTube with the comments through there. So Thorn Element saying bolt action. I think you've already. Yes, actually we did that one before. We've got so Bannerman saying what happened. You used to hate the Tekans. You'll be playing Halflings next. I'm not playing as the Tekans. I'm playing as the Haakonish. But the Tekans are interesting in this game. They have been right from day one, and I have played them a little bit. So they're not a faction that I enjoy all that much. Like the Artux, I also put in that category. But they are interesting. They're an interesting faction. They do well in the game. I thought you were sick for a minute. There we go. So pleased to see Distant Worlds 2 reviews finally looking more like they should, and mostly positive. Yeah, I don't know. Like even a week ago, they were actually mixed for the most recent, which doesn't make sense. There's a big change, guys, in this update, which will actually make the game much more approachable for people who are struggling with it. And we'll get to that when we actually are playing it. But it particularly shows up in the early game. But I'll show you that when we get into it. It's actually it shows you what's happening with the automation, and that's really the key to the game. It should be very positive. Personally, says Battle Mode. I agree 100%. This is a great game. This is one of the great games. It took a long time to fix, yes, and it really should have released in early access, not as a full launch. I think if it were released in early access, people would be much more forgiving of it. And I look at games, for example, like Scramble, Battle for Britain, which is another of the Slytherin games, and the Scramble is a really good game. It's in early access, but there's so much content missing from it, and that's actually, but it rates very highly because of people sort of think, okay, it's early access, it's coming, it's on its way. What do we got at the moment? Yeah, it's all good stuff. And I think if they had it released in early access, we would see much higher ratings for Distant Worlds than what we actually have. Sci-Fi Snobber saying finding more DAS content. There we go. So for some of the Haakonish are homebodies like DAS. There we are. Yeah, they're like Ferengis. They are to a degree. Yeah, they are. Well, they more remind me not so much of Ferengis, but of the trade faction from Star Wars. Like, you know, where they sort of put pressure on, and that's certainly how we're playing our particular game at the moment. Let's get into the special features and just sort of go through those. This will then sort of give you a bit of a feel for the personality as well. So, pretentious design. All ships and base hulls are 20% more use 20% more resources and cost 10% more to build. So planetary facilities are 10% slower to build. So we end up with essentially the facility construction speed goes up there by -10, but everything else, all ships and bases use 20% more resources and cost. So they are slow to build, and it's expensive for them to build. So they use pretentious designs on their ships. Binding contracts. Other factions with a trade treaty with the Haakonish are more likely to buy resources from Haakonish locations instead of foreign suppliers. So this is actually the key to us playing this one. This is a Mercantile faction which are relatively intelligent, and they actually bind almost like a trade empire together with the people who buy from them. So, and we'll definitely be wanting to use this to actually get things going in our game. We're actually in an interesting position with our game, which is why I wanted to sort of show this aspect, which we have to try to create trade blocks with what we're doing. Penalty clauses. So factions declaring war on a Haakonish faction suffer -10 reputation penalty. Independent colonies will also immediately cancel any trade treaties with the warring faction if they also have a trade treaty with the Haakonish faction. This is a big deal. Not a big deal for people who don't give a shit about their reputation. So the Boscarans, for example, who are reckless. So you see there they're cautious. They're very, very reckless, and their dependability is very unreliable. So they don't care about reputation. But you then look at something like the Mortallans, who are very aggressive but very dependable. So these are quite honourable, even though they're reptilians, but they're an honourable type faction. So even though they can be extremely aggressive, they also, once they get into these sorts of deals, I think will sort of be more likely to stick with them. So the penalty clauses in through here, for them to suffer a reputation penalty is a big deal, and also the other problems that then, all other independent colonies will also immediately cancel any trade treaties. It's probably not as big a deal as it sounds, but that overall just means that it's like once a trade treaty has been established with Haakonish, it's difficult to get out of them. So it's fairly interesting to sort of see that one through there. So Shira saying, who are the Quamino? They're sort of like a high-tech amphibious faction. So these are very passive but very careful. Passive doesn't mean that they're weak at all. Like this is an incredibly strong faction. But anyway, I won't keep on. This one's came out fairly recently. We've played a run of them at some point. Like their all research is very, very high. These are a researching powerhouse. Really, probably the most research intensive faction in the game. I love playing as them. Actually, they're a really cool faction with incredible shielding. So that's sort of their big bonus. Anyway, let's continue on with this one. So we've got the penalty clauses. Yep, we've got account confiscation. When a faction declares war on the Haakonish faction will immediately take bonus income equal to all the trade with the warring faction over the previous year. And it's interesting, like it's even with the limited trade that we've been able to establish so far, it's not insubstantial. It actually really is pushing our money up, which allows us to become even more and more powerful. It's quite interesting to sort of see the dynamics of what's happening in this game playing as a Mercantile, particularly as a Haakonish. Superior Destiny. So every time a Haakonish specific research project is completed, you get an Empire bonus, a happiness bonus for 2 years. And again, whenever you see the word happiness, in most games, who cares? Happiness doesn't mean anything. In this game, happiness means money. So when you see a happiness bonus, like even if it's only a small one, like the +5 Empire happiness bonus is not a massive bonus, but that can lead to quite a fair few thousand, credits of income coming through with that happiness bonus. What it means is happiness can then be taxed. And so, and that's the way that the game then controls the big planets, is through taxation. it tries to keep a happiness level of of around about 5. So you can imagine if you're taxing it, say 25%, and to maintain a 5, and then the overall happiness goes up by another 5, the taxation rate can then go up a little bit as well, which means you then get more money coming in off the actual planets themselves. I might talk a little bit about that, because one of the big problems we actually have playing as a Haakonish is that we have a very, very corrupt government system. So there's big corruption inside the Haakonish worlds, and that takes away from your money income. Exploit loopholes. So a Haakonish faction may choose to exploit a trade treaty with another faction by taking money directly from the other faction, up to 3,000 credits. That's just not worth doing. This is not worth doing. However, this action will cause other factions to immediately cancel the trade treaty and will harm our reputation. So that's not something we want to be doing. So I don't think we'd ever do that. 30,000 is just such a small amount. I think it should be much higher. Maybe even 10 times that amount to make it sort of viable. Economic boost, so creative accounting boosts our empire income by plus 10% for 5 years. However, later it triggers growing corruption. Again, corruption takes away your money, so you have to be careful. Can be initiated in any colony once every 8 years. We'll maybe do a bit of a deep dive into the actual economy of what we've actually been able to establish so far. Xenophobic riots, can be initiated in any colony to immediately reduce non-Haakonish populations by 25% of the colony. The colony also gains plus 10 happiness for 5 years and has reduced migration for 10 years. The Haakonish faction also suffers a minus 10 reputation penalty. So if we get to a stage in the game where reputation doesn't really mean much to us, we may do that if we need to be trying to eradicate, let's just say we're on a world with Boscarans or something like that, and we want to try to sort of reduce the Boscaran presence on the world, like if they haven't assimilated, for example. I don't see we'll be doing that one very much. Hard bargainer these are unique leader traits, plus 10% trade income, minus 5% diplomacy. This is unique leader trait, xenophile, so minus 10% colony happiness, minus 5 colony happiness, minus 5 counter espionage. That's actually something we never want to be getting. So if we can actually hopefully don't have that in our grouping. So this is actually going to reduce the overall happiness, again reducing the money that we get. Unique scientist trait, multi-dimensional. So we actually can get a scientist with lots and lots of little bonuses across the board. These aren't guaranteed. They just are something that may come through. Ambassadors, so we've got Xenoculator. So this is plus 10% diplomacy, minus 5% counter-espionage. Counter-espionage is something that we don't want to be, we want to have positives with that, for the simple reason that we really need to be not inviting problems in. So if we end up with an ambassador with the Xenoculator trait, we're not going to be wanting to put them in around a potential enemy who will be spying on us, because it will then mean that the spies will have their spies will have a 5% increase to be able to come in and actually then spy on us and steal our research, for example. And unique spy suspicious, so plus 5% counter-espionage and 5% concealment. So this one here, concealment is sort of like your ability to attack enemy areas. The extra concealment is good. Counter-espionage is good just to have spies looking for spies coming back in. But if we end up with ambassadors with this one here, so this is an ambassador trait, if we do end up with these guys, we've got to be very careful where we put them. They're going to be only really be good to send to friendly places. Otherwise, we are going to be inviting spies coming in. Is the Shakturi playable, says Zach Skull? No, it's not. So they're an end-game threat. I don't know if they'll eventually be something where we can mod them. Sort of the Boscarans or the Gizareans are sort of a bit like them, I guess, to a degree. Anyway, just keep on going back down through here. We've done all that. The startup situation. We get additional startup ships and bases. We get 1 mining ship extra at the start. We can, as the Mercantile factions, doesn't say here, when you choose a Mercantile government type, you can control your mining ships, which can be important if you're playing like an early, like a pre-warp start. That can actually have a big deal. So Star Major saying, does the ambassador lower the enemy by minus 5% when on a planet? What it does is it just opens up spies from wherever they are, like whatever the faction is where they actually are, to I think it's actually the way it works is it means that. Actually, you might be right. I'm not sure actually. Maybe it does make it weaker for them at wherever it actually is. I might see if I can find that one out. Actually, when we're playing, I'm not sure. That's actually I didn't think of that one. I sort of thought what we don't want to have is having these guys sitting at home. I know that. That will make it better, but maybe it reduces the counter espionage at the enemy world. That could be interesting. I'll have a look at this anyway when we get in there. They've got like gravitic pulse weapons, big hyper deny to stop ships from jumping. These are the Haakonish are very much about controlling areas of space for their trade. The deal breaker beam is an interesting beam. We've got that on our ships at the moment, and the vortex bomb is like a deal breaker bomb, which actually sort of can then explode out. The deal breaker beam doesn't do a lot of overall damage, but does a lot of combined damage, and so it's sort of like it's an interesting weapon that is suitable for us right now in our state of the game. But we've been trying to take over pirates, and they're not great for finishing things off because they don't do enough damage to finish stuff off, but they do enough damage to make ships try to retreat. So they're an interesting bomb there, an interesting beam, sorry, which we'll have a bit of a look at. We also have the mega density fuel cell, so we can sort of travel further, and we've got the starfield generator as well, which is like a sensor that we end up having. Yep, so we've got racial victory conditions as well, which I won't worry too much about that one. We do need to try to control one of the special locations. We've located one of them, but we're not going to get control of it unless we go to war with the actual faction. We're trying to befriend that faction. So we'll see how we go. So Battlemode saying this is a really cool set of mechanics. They all are. Every faction is really, really well fleshed out. Like, it's no wonder it takes them so long to put together. Like, all these very, very special ways of playing the game. It's really, really cool. Anyway, let's actually just go and reload in where we are. So I'm going to go and keep on playing the Haakonish Mercantile Dominion. So we'll just go into this actual game. It only took me nearly an hour to get into the actual game itself. So what we'll do is we've got, like, I was looking at this for what reason? Just looking at this fleet. This fleet has just finished off an attack on a Tekan pirate base, and so there should be debris floating around everywhere. So we've actually got hull plating back in through here. So this is actually a Tekan pirate base. You can see the debris sort of floating around all over the place. Now, we'll be wanting to go and pick all this up. This is actually this is the Beacon ship, which is the flagship of the First Fleet. So we've got named ships in here as well. So Shiv Jordan saying, "Sorry, I'm in the game, or did you kill me off by not sending me on missions?" You actually, I think you got banned. Hang on. So we've got 2 spies left. And yeah, you got you were banned at the end of the last session, actually. So you're not in yet. You'll need to redeem another. We do have one. We've got Quark, who's been a name spy. So Wad Ibuta does actually have positive skills. So this is actually the spies. So he actually does have. He's off at the moment trying to steal a territory map from the Shiat Unity Swarm, which I think is a Gizarian faction. High probability success. So Shirajurilan, if you do want to spy, there is one available. No, he's not a named spy. So he can be Quark is, but this one is not. So this one is available. This one as well is just, these are starting. They're still early on in the game, so these are getting their skill levels up. This one is suspicious, which is one of those traits that we sort of saw there before, with the plus 5% counter espionage and plus 5% concealment. So he already gets a bit of a bonus with concealment and counter espionage coming off that suspicious trait. So we saw that as something that's unique for the Haakonish spies. For our characters in through here, let's have a quick look at our ambassadors. This one's just a diplomat, so we end up with extra diplomacy. You can see there that this one does actually encourage espionage as well. So this one is going off to the Siu administrative clans, which is actually a small Artuk faction. I'll talk about the dynamics of what's going on. This is a faction that we want to befriend, but we then want to crush at some point. But at the moment, we're sort of trying to be friendly with them. This is the Anoth Sovereignty Hive. This is actually the the Boscarans. We've just sent this one off. We don't know any traits in through here just yet. Got another ambassador here, which is another diplomat, so plus 10% diplomacy. This one's going off to the Comarachi's military junta. There's another interesting, this is actually the Mortallans, which we looked at before. So this is actually a group that is trying to destroy us at this point in time. We're not at war with them, but we have to now stitch them up and bind them with trade. That's actually really what our goal is now going to be, probably in this episode, I would guess. And this one thing I love about this game is you don't have big, broad, sort of, global, or galactic sort of ideals. You end up with small objectives with every little part of the game. And I love this about this game, is that you're actually dealing with small things that then lead up to big things. And so for us, this ambassador has got a very, very important job to actually then go and convince these guys to actually trade with us. And so he's got the plus 10 diplomacy back in through there. And so he is going to hopefully, and so the way I sort of read it, counter-espionage in through here, what this one, the plus 4%, means that he doesn't give the bonus to where he is. He gives the bonus to our faction from spies coming from the Mortallans. From the Mortallans trying to sort of get in. So the reptilians, if they send spies to us, we've got more chance of catching them, but because of the counter-espionage. So that's what, if we have negative there, that's not what we want. We want positive, I'm sure. That's the way it works. This one here, we've got another one transferring to Famulus. I'm just going to change this one to manual. So I'm just going to make this one so that it doesn't then move. I want all of these guys set where they just don't move around. We have our own leader through here as well. And so we can see through here, this one is actually is not the greatest one. Like you can see there, this negative 10% colony happiness is a big, big problem. And so this is our grand leader. And so he's giving us some bonuses, but really the happiness bonus, the happiness negative is a big, big problem. Also, he's inviting in spies. So his negative 5% counter-espionage is a big, big issue. And so we can see through here he's disorganised, which is not good. He's isolationist, so we end up with less colony ship construction speed. He's a xenophile. Again, we end up with that negative counter-espionage back and through there. So he actually is more open to factions coming in than what the general population is. So he's not xenophobic, he's xenophilic. So he's actually positive about having xenos coming in, and he's labour oriented in through here as well. So some of them, so he's not a great leader. We'll talk about leaders as well when we get into it. So that's sort of, and all these things then ultimately give you different bonuses. Let's go back to our Empire tab and have a quick look at the money situation. You can see there the cash flow is bad, like it's negative at the moment. You might just let the game run forward a little bit. Just until they're all now leaving this system. They are possibly going off to attack another base over here, I think. This Fugitives Rest. The first fleet is the one that we are looking at down in here. So they're just moving off now to, and that's what I mean. Like we've got for them, we're trying to secure our trade network, and so really what we're trying to do is stop the pirates from raiding. And so there's pirates everywhere. So we have a pirate base in here, and I'm assuming if we go to the first, attack Fugitives Rest. Yeah. So the last thing we did in the last episode was to tell them to come in and destroy this particular base. So this base is actually a base of called the Akdarian Outlaws. These are a group of Akdarians who are fighting. The Akdarians will fight fairly well, but we were fighting against Tekan pirates, which were easy enough for us to defeat. But they can be a bit of a problem. So anyway, we'll see how we go when we go in. We may have to retreat, but we'll give that one a bit of a crack and just to see how they sort of operate as well. I'll just get rid of that. So anyway, they're moving off. Yeah, you can see there our cash flow has now corrected itself up a little bit. I'm just going to grab myself a drink of water. Be right back. The game is so big, and I think that's what sort of throws people off when they play it. It's just such a massive game. So Shirajuran is saying you can get 30k trade from trade with pirate factions. I'm asking because when you see the pirate faction going down, it could be a nice way to make money back. I don't think so. No, there's. I don't think in really sort of. It would be hard to get You can eventually get trade bonuses with them, but we're at war with this one, and there's no way we're going to come back from that one there. So I'll just sort of keep on going. Yep. So anyway, let's keep on going. But so the 30k, we're making so much money. Let's have a look at the money situation. So the tabs across here are the broad areas. So you've got like your empire, diplomacy, the characters that you've got, colonies, exploration, resources, ship construction, research, military, and then civilian ships. You very rarely look at the civilian ships back in through there, but they give you little summaries when you do hover over them. In this case, what we're looking at through here is when we hover over this one, you can see that we're talking about the cash and the approvals and stuff like this, overall war weariness and stuff, and overall population, but we tend to get that anyway a lot up the top here. But if we go and click on that one in through there, we then end up with these secondary tabs. So we've got like the economy, the funding levels, the maintenance on what we're actually paying for things, our government, the bonuses that we end up getting, which is just like a collection of all the different bits and pieces, our leader, so we can actually have a look and see him just on his own, and then the policy settings, which I think this is the key to playing the game, but they're also very, very confusing. So I'll show you, like there will be changes in the way the game has now sort of made it much, much more accessible to be able to tweak the policy settings on the fly than what it has been with this new update. This update really does change the accessibility of the game for particularly players who don't use the automation settings all that much. So we'll just keep on going. We're going to look at the economy though. So this is interesting for us because what we end up having through here, if we have a look at the previous year, I guess would be sort of like a good sort of where we are. How far in are we? We're not about halfway through the year. So we sort of like we've got the projected and we've got the current. So this is actually currently what's actually happening, and then the projected amounts that we sort of think will actually end up happening. So maybe we look at all of these different things. But these are the three different columns that we have: previous year, projected income for the current year. So about the same for this year. Sometimes you'll see a bit of a drop. Hi Quark, how are you going? But in this case, we've got colony tax. This is usually your main source of income, and this is actually which is affected by happiness. So happiness is really what the taxation actually does come through. And so the tax, then we've got the tribute received as well. Like if we do end up getting tribute from wars, like if we end up sort of dominating a faction through a war, then that's actually where that one does come through. And then we have trade income as well, which isn't that great at the moment, but that will start to increase over time as we sort of start to create our trade block. The trade income is not a reflection, from what I can understand at all, of happiness. So we don't have to have a happy population. If we can get the trade income up high, it won't impact the trade income. The trade income is the trade income. It's to do with the other factions that we're then dealing with. And I can show you that if we go back into the diplomacy and then go back to the actual factions themselves. You can see that these guys are fairly positive with us. They're neutral, but it's green. And if we have a look and see that we're trying to become an ally with them, so we're trying to become friendly with them. But in one sense, I also want to take something from them. So in this case, you can see down through there, we've got a trade bonus level of 10%. Our trade income is 53,000. I don't know if I click on it there, you can see down through here. So we've got a trade bonus there of 10% with them. Our trade income is 52,000 credits for the last 5 years. So there's actually a lot of money coming in off this particular trade block. That's why I'm thinking that 2,000 doesn't seem right. Their trade income from us is sort of, I'm guessing so it's sort of like a bit of a tit for tat thing, but we're getting more than what we're paying essentially out through that other side. But trade is good with this particular faction. So they're becoming more and more bound to our like trading with us. This is the one that was at war with us, but they're now sort of becoming more neutral. So they don't like our government type. They're troubled with our strange alien ways. So these are sort of slowly rusting away, but not very much. But they're already at -7. We do actually have we have a trade income with them, but we've hardly got anything coming in just yet. But that will then change over time. So slowly we'll sort of end up getting this one to becoming quite powerful. But we do actually have so we don't actually have an official treaty with, there's no treaty with them. With these guys here, we've got a restricted trade agreement. We'll be wanting to increase the level of that trade agreement to get more and more where they're sort of more attached to who we actually are. These ones here, again, no treaties. We had no real trade there. These ones here, there is a little bit of a trade with them, but not much. Again, wow, these are evil. They're not. You often don't see these guys as being evil. Anyway, they've actually really expanded, so they've got all sorts of different worlds under their control. And so this is actually like a high-tech evil empire now. We've got the Rhinegold Interstellar Commonwealth. We do want to ultimately end up with them as an ally as well. And so in this case, no treaties, but we want to get there. We're at +5 at the moment, and we want to try to get that trade really thumping along. So we'll try to sort of get that one happening. This is actually these little negative trade things. We're spending more on trade with them. We'll be able to turn that around slowly over time. Tekan Syndicate as well. We actually have a restricted trade agreement with them. They're a fair distance away from us, but you can see there the amount of trade we're actually doing through here. It's a lot of money. Like we're actually getting a lot through that trade network, and that will just keep on improving as well slowly over time. So the Tekans, again, they're another trading block. We've got Boscarans with no trade, and another Gizarians back in through there with no trade as well. So the bug factions are going to be a little bit of a difficulty for us. So trade will start to become bigger and bigger and bigger over time for us. We then actually have our expenses. So again, just typical things like ships and bases, troops, facilities. We have paid tribute to pirates. So pirates we've paid some tribute out to the pirates. We have one pirate faction that we're trying to befriend. Colony growth in through there as well. We've actually spent extra money just trying to get our growth and research up, which is a good investment. And then we've got like shipbuilding, resource, etc., etc. So we have a income of 41,000 and an outgoing of 37,000, which gives us the positive cash flow in through there. But the big thing that you end up sort of getting is actually the bonus income. And so our bonus income is very, very high. We're getting 107,000 in the previous year. This current year currently is 50,000. So we've actually gone and like this is shipbuilding for independence. So for the private sector, they've actually bought some ships from us, but not a hell of a lot. A resource trading, so your empire will sell excess resources to other empires. So this is essentially where we're getting even more income from trade. It's not just specific trade. This is actually the trade in through here is like official trade. This is sort of like unofficial trade in through this other side. Fuel sales as well. Again, this can be, we'll sell fuel to other empires when they come visiting. Tourism back in through this other side. We don't get a hell of a lot of money from that one. But the trade bonuses, so this is the bonus income from total trade volume. So the more we can get that, the better for us. So we can slowly sort of, the more we can get our trade block going, the better off we're going to be as our particular faction. This is actually, it's funny because this screen will now become much more important for playing as the Haakonish than what it was before. Private cash, this is actually what the private economy has got. We don't have any control over this at all, but that's actually a healthy number that they actually have. And so they're actually making money as well based on our empire. So the more stable our empire is in terms of, not having pirates raid everything and stuff like that, we're going to do fairly well. At the moment, the pirates have been raiding and stealing our money. And so that's why we want to stop them. We want to keep on getting our money up as high as we can, just so we can build a very, very powerful trade block with what we are then doing. So we want to start to dominate. We need money to dominate, and we do that through trade. So our private cash flow there is also quite positive. You can see there that they also pay maintenance, which sort of ends up disappearing. Like that just is maintenance that ends up going out of the game. The colony taxes is what they pay to be on our colonies under our control. So they pay 38,000 at the moment. Private fuel as well. This is the fuel cost for privately owned ships in your empire. So this is actually the cost that they then pay for their fuel. So they then have to make profit out of that one. So you can see there the taxes and the maintenance costs are very, very high, and so we take a cut of basically the taxes are what we end up sort of getting hold of, but corruption comes out of the colony taxes. So I won't go into too much more detail than that, but that's sort of where we are. Hi Began, how are you going? Yep, so Thor Nellerman saying, I agree with Daz that the exploit loophole needs to be exploited to be worthwhile. Yes, I don't think we'll be doing that. Wedgetail is saying pretty new to Distant Mods too, but are there weapons you mentioned earlier a good candidate for forceful procurement of belligerent fleets? They all do different things, and this is actually one of the things where it doesn't seem like they do, but they actually do. So what we have, and I'll show you when we go into this combat. So we're going to be going and taking over this particular base. This is going to be interesting. Now, what else have we got? We've got actually so you can see damage being done up the top there. But let's just focus on this fleet. Let's just unpause the game and just let it go forward there a little bit. There is actually attacks going up through there. Cerberus 7 minus station. This is actually done by a different. There's a different pirate faction there. If I go back into diplomacy, we can then see the Blood Claw force is actually operating in this actual station as well. These look very, very powerful. These are all pirate ships coming back in. And they're fighting other pirate ships at the moment. And so that's actually one of our stations, which has now got so many competing pirate factions coming in to try to raid us. And there should be their base over through here as well. And so this is actually a group that is the this is actually the Ikaru, which are going to be very, very strong for us to sort of then go and do anything. Thank you, Began, for the gifted subs. It's very, very much appreciated. So we've got, yeah, so anyway, we're sort of now moving in. I'll just get rid of the diplomacy again. One of the really cool things about this game is that may be too difficult for us to take on, but there's so many pirates up there, we're going to have to try to get there at some point. So, yep, so Sci-Fi Snob is saying, a weak part of the game for the beginner or intermediate player is understanding weapons, which weapons are better for which circumstances. We'll do a bit of a deep dive when we come in for this attack, and you'll see the interplay with what we've actually currently got designed. And I'm not super happy with what we've got. So what we're trying to do is we've got 2 and a bit years to try to get these much more efficient beam weapons. So we're trying to overcome our deficiencies with our weaponry through beam weapons, which will sort of hopefully it will make sense as we progress. So this is now coming back in. I'm just going to now reduce the speed so we can sort of look at the interplay of the actual action. Now, the game has improved a lot over last years, actually, but it keeps on improving with the way that fleets behave. Let's just have a quick look. I'll just pause this one, go to our first fleet. You can see they're all sort of strung out through here as they're coming back in to attack this particular this particular pirate station. We don't have a real presence in this area, so we don't know how many pirate ships there's going to be, and we'll need to make a decision about that when we actually bounce in. If it's full of pirate ships, we're going to have to change our strategy and not go after the base because it'll be too difficult. But having said that, like we've actually, we've got like our overall strength is not all that strong, to be honest, at 848. So our fleets are fairly weak. But what will happen is you've actually got these tactics, and so you've got the advanced settings, and so I've got very tight is the formation, and so our ships are trying to keep cohesion, which then allows me to fire much more. Like I should be able to then gang up on things if I have that very tight cohesion. Let's just unpause, let it come in, and it will then sort of arrive fairly close to this one. Now, as we get closer, we then start to see other things being picked up. So the pirate base has only got 2 ships protecting it. It's got this one here, which is coming back in for refueling. So this is the Exodar Death. And then there was another 2 ships in behind here. So we've actually got another, if I just press Control and then just hover over, grab those. No, I'm going to do it with mine, sorry. What else have we got through there? We've got the, we've got the Exodar Shield, which is refueling as well at this particular location. And that's a Fugitive's Rest. Looks like I can't really easily get to this other one. There's another ship there anyway. But I'm just only picking up the other group. Anyway, there's not much here. So our ships are now sort of arriving. This is our first fleet is the named ships we actually have. So we've sort of got those coming back through. We've got 2 different classes of ships that we're using in our fleets. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about that as well. I think people get a bit confused about how to sort of set things up for combat in the game. And you can actually have it you can either do it the hard way, where you do everything manually, or you can do it the easy way, where you automate things, but you've just got to know a little bit about where to go to actually find them. Quark is saying 848 strength, they'll get slaughtered. Yes, probably. No, well, no, they should be okay. Stomach just saying the selection thingy, bottom middle of the screen maybe. So, yeah, actually that's true. I've got them in through here. The Exodar shield, the Cutlass of Exodar, there we go. That's the other ship in through there. Just a heavy escort, a heavy pirate escort. You can see there that their overall strength is actually 68 for the actual ship itself. So, they've got railguns. There's all sorts of different classes of weapons, but these are my main two weapons that I'm using are these two in through here: the Dealbreaker frigate, which is my frigate design, and then the heavy escort. Let's have a look at the ship. I'll just wait for all the ships to arrive. So this is now the fleet, which has now appeared. So it's now coming in. See the cohesion because it's got a target. If I had told it to go to an area in space, they'd be much more spread out when they arrive. But because we actually have given them a specific target, they come in battle ready. So they actually come in with their with all the plans in place. What we end up having through here is we have one assault transport, which we've been using to try to take over different things, like in terms of taking over enemy ships. So we actually have like assault pods on this as an assault transport. I won't bother looking at the design of that one, but it's very, very weak. The main ship, our main battle line ship, is these Dealbreaker frigates. So, but before we do that, if I have a look at the actual fleet, I'll just select number 1. So I've got, and you can do that by pressing Control and then any of the numbers, and you can then just press the numbers to pick up whatever you wanted to sort of then have access to. So all my fleets of 2, 3, 4, these are all different fleets in through here. If you do things manually with the fleets, you're going to find that you have to then sort of micromanage what they do. But down the bottom through here, we have different things that they can then go and do. Now, this one is wanting to retrofit up to the latest design, back at the Matrani 3 spaceport, which is our home spaceport. But I don't want them to do that yet until they've actually done this attack. So I think there's been a mild update, and it may just be even just the... it could just even just be these guys, the Intrepid Gamble. If I go and click on... No, it's not that one. If I just go back to number 1... Is it this one? Nope. So some of them will, yeah, they've, yeah, I don't think we need to do any retrofitting. It sort of wants to do something, but it wants us to go back and retrofit. So one of the ship designs has possibly been updated. Anyway, so that's the actual fleet itself. But you can see down through here, down the bottom here, we've got the top up the first fleet in through here if we had any missing ship rolls, and this is actually really handy. So if we do lose ships, I can then just go and click on that button, and it will then fill them up. But I have to set up a template for the ships, for the fleet itself. I can stop and clear any missions that it has. I can go to the army template for the fleet. We do actually have one transporter here. So we actually are transporting around one armoured group, like we have an armoured group there, which is not used in space. And we're not really going to be using it as such, but it's just on board. That's okay, I don't really mind so much. But down through here, this is the important one. The fleet template has been set to defence fleet at the moment. So we've sort of got like a defence fleet template there. Now I think it's supposed to be attack fleet. I think there's a bit of a bug at the moment where it seems to be defaulting back down to defence fleet, but I think it's the attack fleet. We'll have a look at that when we go in, but that dictates what this fleet is composed of. And so if I go back into my military tab, the first tab in through here is actually the fleet templates and fleet creation. And if we have a bit of a look, defence fleets only have 7 ships. So it is the attack fleet that we're using. And if I go and edit the attack fleet and go and click on edit, you can see there that we've got 8 escorts, 8 frigates, and 2 fuel tankers. And I then actually have how these are composed. Getting used to using this templating system is really the key to not having to micromanage your fleets. But it keeps them defaulting back. I might just quickly go through all my fleets and just make sure that they are where we want them. So the first fleet should be an attack fleet. Again, it hasn't changed much in through there. Second fleet, again, yeah, this is a bug. Okay. Third fleet, I don't know if it's an oldish bug from when we were playing with the betas. So that should also be an attack fleet. Fourth fleet is an invasion fleet. Yep, that's fine. Fifth is a raiding fleet, I think. That's actually down as a defence fleet. See how it wants to top them up with frigates? That one should be a raiding force, which is then what that one is actually set up to be. And I think that's all I've got. Yeah, that's the only fleets I've actually got. So this is actually now, the first fleet is using the template of attack fleet, which means that if anything gets missing from here, I can then just click that button and it will then build ships to put them back into the fleet. So it's very, very handy way of actually sort of managing what does go on with the actual ships themselves. And then you've actually got what their fleet role is. Now, if you set it to manual, it means that you're in manual control and have to tell them exactly what to do. In this case, we're telling them to go after the pirate areas, but we can give them more global things to do as well, so we don't have to micromanage. We can, for example, the most common one is just to defend, like an area of space. But in this case, we're not going to be doing that. We want this one to be under our control. I think most of the others, if we zoom back out, most of the others will be set to this sort of manual system. Like if I go back to the second fleet, see there's this blue area. This one has been set as a defense fleet. That means it will do things automatically within the confines of it will retrofit itself up, like automatically. It'll just go off and do its own repairs. It will defend anything inside these systems, inside this area, and I can change that area just by going back into the tactics and telling it how far that engagement range is. So when it's on this when it's on auto like this, it will then do defense operations in through that side. Third fleet is even bigger, so this is actually another one where it's automatically going off. It's deciding, okay, and it's blue because it's defense. I can change that to raid, attack, whatever I want to invade, but I'll just keep it on defense. And so even though it's an attack fleet, it's got a defense role within an area. This is like a larger area. This is actually now looking at a 100M range. And so in this case, this particular fleet is going off automatically to go and deal with this bug here. There's a beast that's sort of around that gas giant. So it's just getting rid of threats inside its area. The fourth fleet has been set to manual control because this is an invasion fleet. The fifth fleet down through here is also set to defense, but it's actually only the same system. So the blue area that it looks after is very, very small. So anything that comes in, it will actually just only really go and try to defend anything that comes back in through here. The reason we've done that, and we've got so much away from our home worlds, is because of these guys, because they've declared war on us once before. So we need to sort of try to stitch them up with the economy ultimately. But we need to become a powerful faction to sort of then be able to push them around. Anyway, let's go back to this particular attack, and then we'll talk about the actual ships themselves. Now, each weapon has got like its own look to what it actually ends up doing, and what we should find is that there will be little ships in here. Oh, there we go. I just went past them. So this one is a basic bomber of the pirate bomber. It's very hard to see it there, but this pirate bomber is coming out to attack our ships. So we have like small craft is now sort of moving. That's its actual attack range. Then that little red circle. There's a few of them around. It's very hard to sort of spot them. There's another one there, for example, another basic bomber. So the bombers are sort of like, again, I think it's most relatable to Star Wars, like where you've actually got like your bomber sort of fighters, and you've also then got your actual interceptor fighters. And so they'll actually have like a number of them. They've got 3 interceptors and 3 bombers. So we saw 2 of the bombers in through there. This is the range of the actual of the weaponry on this particular base as well. So each weapon has got its own range system. It's also got a facing. So that's actually, if we have a look and see what this, and maybe we'll do a bit of a deep dive into this one and spend a bit of time talking about the way, this is why this game is so much better than Distant Worlds 1 ever was in the sense of combat. The facings now of weapons is really, really important. So it's actually sent off its ships from these hangar bays. So the hangar bays have sort of sent the ships out to go and attack us. So they've actually sort of left the base, and they're on their way out to our fleet. So they're sort of like about in here somewhere. So they're on their way out. So like I was saying, to Zach's Skull, DasTactic, maybe you can show their unique tech. Yes, I'll go through that in a minute. Yeah, actually, Quark is saying F cycles through fleets as well, so you can just go F and go through them all. I tend to do that if I haven't numbered them, but I always number a fleet when I build it. So control, and so the first fleet is setting that one up. Our fleet consists of those 8 ships, the eight of the frigates, and then we've got 8 of the heavy escorts. But we'll have a bit of a deep dive into what each of these actually are. Let's have a look at the Fugitive's Rest. And we saw there was heaps of rings coming out. There's a ring that ends up here, another ring that goes there, another one there, another one there, another one there. And see how they're different colours as well. So if we have a bit of a look at the actual the spaceport itself, so each of those will be related to something back in through here as well. And each of these, when I hover over them, will actually then have a range. And so this one here, that's a tractor beam. Not seeing a range on that one actually, but that should be. See how it's and also when I hover over different things, the tractor beam is coming off this one, which means that it has to. That one can only operate within that range of where it actually is. If you're wanting to really micromanage what you're doing, you try to figure out what's actually on each of these different things. So if we've got the Sentinel multi-beam is going to be a point defense system at the top. So there's a point defense system at the top there. It's funny, it's all pointing the other way. Railguns are down the bottom here. So we've got railguns coming in this side. Another Sentinel multi-beam at the top. Iron cannon down the other side. Down this way somewhere. Yep, so that's a disabling cannon. Again, the angle of our ships is coming in at the wrong angle, I think. So, but we may see that one fire. Tractor beam, intimidating surge blast. This is going to be a long range blast. Actually, range is 1500. Now it is also from this other side, but that will be a seeking weapon, which means it won't matter. It will still fire. And then concussion missiles as well. We've got 2 lots of concussion missiles on either side of the actual station itself. 100th Monkey is saying one big problem with new players is understanding the meaning of some of the weapon component stats. Like their meaning isn't explained anywhere. For some, it's kind of obvious, but it's not actually obvious at all. It's a good point. It's actually really quite difficult to actually to understand why you would choose lower grade weapons over other grade weapons. I'll try to explain that with what's going on, and we'll try to use some of the weaponry that we see through here from this particular station. So this station, as we come in, we should start to see it fire. Let's just go on as we'll just unpause and just watch the station. And we'll look for these hard points. These are the hard points in around here. All the important ones are down the base here. So when we see something fire, I'll just sort of let things go. I've just unpaused. And we'll try to sort of see where it triggers. Now that's just spawned another ship. It's been probably in there for repair. Or that might have been the other one from the other side, just clipping through. Still not seeing stuff, and we're coming in close. This is now, we're now starting to see we're now inside the green area, which we're just about to hit that first red area, where we should see missiles firing from the actual station. And we should see them coming out from 2 sides of the actual station itself. In the meantime, the small craft are making their way through. Like there's another bomber in through here somewhere. And so we've got like point defense weapons that are now firing at those. And if I go and click on one of these, we can see there that this is actually our main attack that we actually have out through here. And we've got 2 other attacks in through here, including the blue. But this is now inside the range 4. And if I go and hover over the different things that you can see there, the blue is the Sentinel multi-beam, which is what these are. So the Sentinel multi-beam is trying to destroy these little fighter craft. Let's just go back and see when we can start to see the torpedoes and things launch, or the missiles launch from in here. We're just about to hit the range. So just dismiss that. Sorry, just keep on going back. Black League offers us protection. I'm going to decline that one. Equiminos. Yep, so, and the escort is now under attack from this particular station. I didn't see, there's a missile. So these missiles are now firing from this port here. So that one is now firing its missiles, and so there'll be a train of them leaving there, and then they'll sort of move off they'll be moving more quickly towards the fleet coming in. See, they're firing off now. So that's actually one of the ports, and there should be another one on the other side as well. There they are. Yep, so these are now firing off from here as well, to sort of fire off towards our actual fleet. So there, we've now just hit the range, and bases have got like double the range of a ship. So this one here, we've just hit this outer ring here, which is where that one fires off. The next ring coming back in, when we have a look at this one through here, is possibly the Intimidator Surge Blast. That could be it. The tractor beam is the green one. You can sort of see there when I hover over that one. The green is going, so you can apply a tractor beam if one of our ships tries to escape. So it can sort of keep our ships in position and draw them further in. But in this case, the sentinel beams sort of end up being further in. The iron cannons fire at about this range, much broader range than what we end up having. So bases get like a bonus to their distance. Concussion missiles are on their way at the moment. Railguns, another red, which will be probably this one here potentially. That could be the railguns, I think. And then we have the actual fighters as well, which are now have possibly been destroyed. Yeah, all their bombers have now been destroyed. So we've done them through the sentinel beams, and then the two interceptors are now coming back out. There's still two interceptors out there. They're weaker against ships, but they're stronger against small craft. We don't have any small craft in our fleet, so they're not really a big threat. Let's go and watch as these torpedoes get closer. I can't actually go and click on them, but they're on their way out. So what we'll do is we'll see the sentinel beams from our fleet start to pick up on those missiles as they get closer. There they go. So they're actually now, that may be an interceptor that was in here somewhere. I can't really see it. So these guys are now firing their sentinel beams, and it tends to sort of, like, if you see it go beyond where it's supposed to be, it often means that that's a miss. Whereas this one here looks like it's actually a direct hit, like it hasn't clipped out past our ship. It's a bit hard to say. Oh no, maybe it is. Maybe it's still actually okay. I don't know why it sort of does that, where it sort of goes beyond the actual. It's almost like a bloom effect. It's only got one beam, so I'm not sure why it's doing that one. Anyway, they're trying to impact things coming in. There's a missile there, for example. We can see it now hitting. The way it works with missiles is that we don't really get to see what the damage actually is, but when the missile hits, its power is diminished by the point defense. So our point defense systems, which are on these heavy escorts, are diminishing the power of the missile as it comes in, so it can still hit, but then do much less damage than what you think it will do. So it may still do the hit. Here it comes, and so it's actually now struck this particular ship. No, it must have just missed actually in that case. So it sort of blew up before it got there. Let's just have a look at some of the other ones coming in. So we've got there's I think 8 of them coming in. You can see there's a whole lot of them firing and coming in towards our fleet. There we go. We're destroying them with our point defense as they come in. This will be another. There'll be one of the interceptors. In fact, I'm guessing there's only one more left. Yeah, one more interceptor, which is being fired at. It's these missiles in through here. We just watch and see what they end up doing as they sort of come back into our fleet. That one hasn't been targeted. It has now. It's only just got targeted just then, and actually that was destroyed. These missiles here are now being targeted, and that one has been targeted with our point defense. Just keep them coming. They're still using our beams, and that one also missed. So we're managing to kill them off. And again, this tight formation is great for doing this. The enemy ships are now coming out as well. So we're seeing more and more of these coming through. Here comes an Intimidator Surge Blast. So it's coming from this side of the ship. Now it doesn't mean much. I think where that one came from was over here, I assume. Yeah, it would have actually launched from this side. So if we have a look at the Fugitive's Rest again and go to the Intimidator Surge Blast, that's the angle that we're currently looking at through here, where we actually have, or is it? Intimidator Surge Blast, concussion missile. No, it's next to the concussion missile. So we saw where the concussion missile was coming out before. So we can now sort of spot it's coming from here. No, it's not. There's one missing. It still must be here. It must be back in here, and the missiles are coming from there. That's right. We have another lot of missiles coming from this other side. But ultimately, if you know, for example, that there's like a large gun that can't target you, and these can all seek missiles and so, and the surge blast can actually then go and they can actually target you and hunt you down. But if there was sort of like a beam weapon, we can then go inside the field of fire to actually sort of then try to do it. You don't have to. I'm just really doing a deep dive here to sort of see what's going on. Once we start to get inside the combat range of all the other bits and pieces, we'll then sort of have a bit of a deeper look. Again, trying to destroy. This is interesting. We've actually now sent out, this is a different type of weapon that we're now seeing, as is this. So we now actually have a couple of things happening here. Now I don't know why it fired this little cannon here. So one of these guys, if we have a quick look and see what it's got, she's not on that one. Must be this one here. Yeah, that it got fired from here, but the range for it is only out to here, this other side. Like that's as far as that. There's this little blip here goes. That's an iron cannon. So an iron cannon is for disabling weapon. It does have some abilities. Like if we go back into the actual frigate now and have a look and see what we've got. So our ship has only got like an iron cannon, which actually, you can see it's got like an intercepting range there of 450, targeting of minus 10%. It's not a great thing for bringing down enemy ships. So it's like for small craft, it's much better against larger targets where the actual range is much higher. So I think it's fired it to try to intercept a missile, which just isn't going to happen. So it's just not going to work. And with that one, and then it has to wait then for the firing rate to then sort of end up spooling back up again. So another 7 seconds. We're playing on half speed, so 14 seconds for it to be able to get the iron cannon back. But it's got no other targets with it, so that's all fine. The other thing that we have is we have this beam weapon now going and hitting this other ship over through here. It looks like it actually did get a hit. Otherwise, a beam weapon wouldn't be directly on the ship itself. This is our deal breaker beam, and this is actually a heavy escort. All these guys have got is one big deal breaker beam and then the Sentinel multi-beam defense. The deal breaker beam is Haakonish. This is actually a unique Haakonish weapon, and so it's you can see down through here. This is actually where it does get confusing for people. Where if in fact what I might do is I might just quickly go to the ship design so you can sort of see the difference. I'll just go back into ship designs. We'll go into sort by role, so all the escorts and frigates are together. And I'll choose the frigate. The frigate's always a really good one to have a look at. We looked at the Tekan frigate before, which had all the big, powerful things facing backwards. And if I just go and edit this one, we can sort of at least see what we're doing. I'm just going to go and set up my filtering to latest per category and family, and then the sorting to go by bay type, category, family, and size. I really wish that they would actually have this as a default. It makes it much more manageable for new players. So those two little settings there just mean that you can go through your new components. So this is all the stuff we can put on these ships at this point in time. So from tractor beams, intimidated surge blast there again as well, which is sort of what the enemy is using against us. So they're using these blast weapons. I don't tend to use the area blasts all that much, but they can be useful. So we've got all sorts of different classes of ships, and you can see there that all of the, for example, the WCLs are all together, the WINs are all together, the WSTs are all together. So the way that these work is that you've then got like tractor beam at the top. In this case, you have to often research these, but we actually do have the ability to use tractor beams. We've got this is actually an area weapon, so it's weapon AR so that's what the WAR is. It's weapon area. So it's an area weapon. This is the tonnage, so 54 tons, and then sort of like what the actual title is, and then it's got like an ability back in through there. So this one does, if it hits, it does damage at 64. It does less damage. The energy drains away over time, so it does less damage if it's fired from further away. So we can expect that that's what's going to be coming out our way to go and try to sort of do damage near us. And again, anything caught in that blast is going to be impacted, including small craft. So it's using area weapons. I tend to not bother with them. The next one is a bombard weapon. So the WBB is an atomic devastator, and this is mainly for bombarding planets. And you can see down through there the military bombardment there is 20. But this is really where, I guess, where it does get confusing for people. Like, so WCL, these are close-in weapons. All the WCLs all have to have the field of fire facing where that weapon is going to be going. So if it's on the opposite side of the ship that's trying to fire at it, the ship has to move around to be able to get the weapon mount to actually target that particular target. So these all have to be aimed. And so we've actually got the deal breaker beam. We've got a large deal breaker beam. It's actually a bit further down here because it's actually in a different. I don't know why it's in the standoff beams. It is actually still a beam weapon. It's not a seeking weapon. Whereas missiles, you'll see it will actually have the word seeking. The fire type is seeking. Whereas a deal breaker beam is just a full length beam, which is what we're sort of seeing with the attack that went on with that particular one. And so the large deal breaker beam, and we can see down through here, it's got a damage of 52, but a damage rate of only 2. So the damage rate is really, really low. If I go and this is like 57 tons to actually go and install one of these on a ship, which is a lot of power, a lot going on. If I go and compare that, for example, to a small, or even a medium railgun, or even a small railgun, so a 13-ton railgun does more damage per second than a massive deal breaker beam. And this is actually where people do get confused, but the way this one works. So I'll try to explain why this is actually different and why it's important. So the actual damage rate is 2.8 seconds if there's not other things in play. For a small railgun, it only does 11 damage, but the damage rate is doubled almost, and this is actually for a much, much smaller weapon. So I think that people then think, oh, well, I'll just put railguns on everything. But railguns also have other things that actually then impact it. So, for example, you can see there it does 11 damage. And also, like if we go and choose the medium railgun, you can see there it's still 11 damage, but it now does 7.2. If I go and click on the small railgun and hover over the medium railgun, we can then get the comparison of what's actually going on between these two weapons. And you'll sort of see that really it's double the size, so the actual size is double, slightly more crew, so it's not double the crew, so it's slightly better off in through that side. But really, when we get down to it, down the very, very bottom, it's got shots per volley. It's got like two turrets rather than one turret, and so that's why it's getting the extra damage per second, but it still only does, each pellet only does 11 damage. So this was almost like a machine gun when it sort of fires in space. But the 11 damage is misleading because you're thinking, oh, well, I'll just machine gun my way through, and you can do that, but the damage then has to get through the other enemy ship. And so when we have a look at things, for example, like even just the shielding that we have, so if we have a look at the two different types of weapons that we actually end up having through here, so we've got a deflection shield generator, and some of these will end up having, and we don't actually have it on this one, but some of them will actually have like a rate of subtracting essentially damage that comes in. So the 11 might end up being 9 by the time it actually gets to where the shields are. And also then when it hits armor will also always have a reactive rating. That 2 gets subtracted from the amount. So if we have like a deal breaker beam there, which is doing, in this case, this one is doing 52 damage, it means it's doing 50 damage when it actually hits, whereas the 11 damage is doing 9 damage if it gets to hit the armor. So it's doing less damage when it actually does hit the armor. In fact, comparing these two is actually fairly interesting. So that reactive rating, and as we go further into the tech trees, the reactive rating will increase. In fact, you can see down through here, even the hull itself has got a reactive rating. If that, let's just say that the 9, like if it hits the armor and there's 9 left over, or even if all the armor then is sort of stripped off the ship and it starts to hit the hull, there's still a reactive rating of the hull of 3. So if the 11's hitting that one, it's only doing 8. So it's doing a lot less damage overall. Now, the damage rate may still sound like it's interesting because it's sort of, damage rate is so different for these, even from these small railguns. But if we have a look down further down into sort of like about just beyond 50% of the way down through there, you can see the range. The range is one thing, like we can sort of fire at this one for double the range using the deal breaker beam, so they're longer range. The speed, it's immediate. That doesn't really matter that much. But then we've got these other things where the railgun has got a shield bypass, which means that it actually, there's a percentage of the shot that will bleed through the shield. So let's just say that we've got the 11 hitting a shield. It's got a 40% shield bypass, which means 40% of 11 is going to get through. Let's just say 5. That 5 will then hit the armor. So we go through the shields, hit the armor. We've got 5 hitting the armor. Reactive rating there of 2 on even our low level armor. That means the 5 has now become 3. And then let's just say for some reason it tries to, well, it's actually got an armor bypass there of -20, which means it actually does less damage against armor. And so it bounces off armor. So the 3 might be 2, so it's really only doing 2 damage to armor. Whereas ours is actually with the deal breaker beam, has got 52 damage. It's coming in, it's hitting at, let's just say it's a point blank range. There's a 30% shield bypass. So the 52 hitting the shield is, so 30% of the 50 is going to be sort of like 20, is now sort of getting through onto the actual armor. The armor bypass of 75%, the 20 that's actually hitting 75%, 15 of that damage is bleeding through now into the actual hull itself. And so it's then hitting the reactive rating of, it'll reduce a little bit with your reactive rating, say 13. Let's just say that that 13 then bleeds through into the hull. The hull has got a reactive rating of 3, which means that essentially you've sort of got like 10 damage being done to the hull of the ship. So a deal breaker beam, even though it's sort of got like a worse damage rate, ultimately does a lot more damage to the actual ship itself. So it's actually really quite intricate. So even though the damage rate looks worse, one hit from a deal breaker beam is going to do damage all the way through the enemy ship. It's almost sort of like using a beam that cuts through everything when you actually use a deal breaker beam. But they don't do a lot of damage. But they do a lot of small damage by cutting straight through. But they don't do massive to pull ships apart. So they end up forcing ships to often jump away because they're doing damage all the time to everything. So they're a really interesting little weapon, but they're not good at finishing things off because they just don't do, the damage rate is so low. But the actual, what it does do is really, really impressive. Hi Sev, how are you going? I hope that makes sense. It can be quite confusing. And if I go to things, for example, like the Epsilon torpedo, this is often a good comparison. So this one here is the Epsilon torpedo is slightly bigger than the railgun. So the railgun is great for sort of machine gunning things. Like it's quite a small weapon, but the Epsilon torpedo through there, you'll see there that the Epsilon torpedoes are weak against shielding, but then they actually also have an armor bypass of plus 40%. And so these actually do 35 damage when they hit. They also still have a less damage rate, but then you've got to take into effect all that reactive rating really does reduce that 11 right down to very, very small numbers when it actually is hitting enemy ships. Whereas a torpedo will, if the shielding comes down, by the time the shielding comes down, then the bypass will then mean that these things just chew ships apart. So once the shielding drops, these can cause all sorts of damage like to actual ships. So there's a percentage of the actual 35 that then is like 40% of that 35 damage is getting straight into the actual ship itself. So it's very, very cool the way that one does sort of work. Other things that we actually have is the iron cannon. The iron cannon actually does very, very weak damage per second. But what it does do is you'll see all that second little slot down through there. It's got iron damage for engines, hyperdrive, sensors, shields, and weapons. The goal with an iron weapon is not to cause damage. It will do a little bit of damage, but what you're really wanting to do is actually cause disabling. So this one is designed to try to disable enemy ships. Anyway, that's sort of what we've got at play with what we actually have with our ships. So our ship has got like an iron cannon for disabling. It's got a multi-beam defense, which is just like a beam here for trying to intercept the small craft and stuff, which we can see. And then it's got these big deal breaker beams, which are there just to sort of do multiple damage. So with that in mind now, if we just go and cancel that, and then have a look and see what's happened here. This is at extreme range. So this one here, that's the extreme range of the deal breaker beam. It's just been able to hit it, so it's hit this particular one. So we're doing like half damage anyway when it actually does hit. So let's just see what actually has happened here. And so what we've done is we've got we've actually hit the enemy's shield. So the shield has come down a little bit with the with what's gone through. It's then bled through onto the armor, in which case most of the damage is then bled through onto the hull. And so the hull itself is now down to 99.3 because it has bled through. Now, it didn't cause any damage into the actual hull itself, but quite often it will. But this is actually like a butter knife through this ship. It's just sort of cut its way through. This ship is also now blasting off its missiles. So it's actually now sending out missiles. We have a look and see what this ship has got. Sorry, I'll just get rid of that. So it's got a little railgun at the front of the ship. So that's the front there. Or a medium railgun, and a concussion missile at the back. So it's firing off those missiles from the back of the ship. So that's actually what's coming out from the ship at the moment. And it's got this sort of short-range railgun at the front through here. So that's what we're sort of seeing. But we did actually hit it with that beam. As it gets closer, we'll then find that there'll be more and more deal-breaker beams targeting this particular ship. Let's just unpause. So again, we've just done the damage into that one. See there, 99.3. It will then, the repair crews on this ship, you can see there it's got a damage control unit. That will then go through and start to repair the damage done to the hull, for example. There we go, deal breaker beam coming back through there. We've got more missiles coming in to try to hit us. And we've got the point defense now sort of still working overtime, trying to get rid of all these small areas that are coming back in. The Intimidator Surge Blast is actually now being targeted by these. These guys are trying to weaken the damage coming in this way. And again, this one is now hit it as well by the looks of things. Still 99.3, but the shielding is coming down a little bit. Will we get it off? This one is being targeted a lot by these enemy ships. So the Surge Blast is coming in to sort of target in around here somewhere. These missiles are all streaming in, and these guys are now trying to finish them off. These should be able to help them. Have a quick look and see what they've got with their Sentinel beam. Yeah, they've got full range, 360 degrees for the Sentinel beam. And then we actually have, on our ship, we have, like on the deal breaker is on the starboard side, and then the iron beam is on the port side, which is why these aren't really firing across the bow. They don't have the range to fire this side, whereas these guys, these heavy escorts, the deal breaker beam is got a 270 degree mount, so we can actually fire a little bit behind as well. And then it's got the Sentinel multi beam is also 270. This one doesn't have any protection from directly behind the ship with what's going on there. So, but from the front, this thing is fairly compact and fairly impactful. So anyway, this is going to take a whole blast of different weapons. We'll just sort of see what actually happens in through here. Now that's the Intimidator Surge Blast, which has just come through. And we'll see there the Intimidator Surge Blast is now actually stripped through, it's bypassed our shields. Our shields, if we have a quick look and see what's going on there, the deflection shield generator, you'll see there it's got like a, it's got iron damage defense there of 10, so if iron damage is coming back through. The shield strength itself is 192. The penetration chance is 20%. What this means is that 1 in 5 shots is going to bypass the shields entirely, where the shield will just fail. So it's a 1 in 5 chance of anything failing. And this actually this is where you can use torpedoes or even railguns to just, basically try to rely on that 1 in 5. But over time, our technology will catch up and that number will come right down. But at the moment, we're quite susceptible to our shields failing, and in this case is what has happened. The shield penetration ratio, 50% of damage when the shield does fail will get through onto to the next level, which is the armor. And so that surge blast, this ship took the whole blast from that surge blast, which it did reduce it slightly. Some of the damage would have been reduced, but it's completely bypassed our shields, and so it's now done damage to our armor. And so the armour, we're down to 55% of the actual armour that we actually have. And so the rating, it's not the best armour. Let's just say that at this point in time. But it took the full brunt. This one here took a little bit of damage, I think. No, they're all the same. So they didn't take any of that surge blast just yet. And then we've got all these missiles coming in. And so what we'll see is the missiles, if we have a quick look and see what this one has got with the concussion missiles. Oh, here we go. See, this one has already now taken, those surge blasts are now having the deal breaker beams are chopping their way through the ship. And we can sort of see there that there's actually already been damage now done to its Sentinel multi-beam is down. Its armour is down, it's only slightly, but it's actually cut through the actual armour. So there's actually damage done through there. But it can't use this weapon at the moment. Now the actual concussion missile is set to normal. This one here has got, yes, it doesn't actually do any special things with bypasses or anything like that. So it'll just keep on coming through, and one in 5 of those will get through our shields and then do damage to the hull. It's just damage to the armor on this ship. And so a lot of those actually hit the ship, and we can see there most of those actually then just ended up doing damage to the shields. So those the salvo that actually came back through did damage that way. Again, if we have a look at this ship, it's 99%, but we can see there now in the damage column, weapons and defences. So we're slowly working our way through. Unfortunately, this is on the exact opposite side. If it was over here, all these ships would be firing their deal breaker beams, but it's going to miss all of these deal breaker beams except for the heavy escorts. Sorry I'm spending so much time doing this, but I really do like this. See, it's only the escorts that are firing because their field of fire works. This one, look at this one here. The Iron Demolisher is actually now swinging around. It will be able to line up on this, and it may be deciding to get a better angle of attack on the actual station. But it may also be coming in to try to get its steel breaker beam to target this particular ship. So again, we're now doing damage on the shields. This is where the deal breaker beam really, really works well. Is because we've done damage into the actual ship itself. This ship is now trying to escape already, even though it hasn't really taken overall that much damage. The deal breaker beams are great for basically forcing ships out of fights. So even if they don't take much damage, they'll still try to get away. Let's just see what actually happens here. So the ships, they don't finish much off. In fact, yeah, they're just moving into better position. These are now, that one missed that one, so that deal breaker wasn't all that accurate. And will we be able to get, we may be able to get an angle on this one here. The Predator of Mitriani. No, it's actually now jumped away. We're seeing more ships now coming back through. There's more frigates and things leaving. So now getting closer. Here comes another Intimidator Surge Blast, which is going to target the other ship. See our repair crews are now moving and working on the armour, on this heavy escort. That's now coming back up. This one here is trying to disable this Surge Blast. And it did, actually. So the Sentinel Beam destroyed the Surge Blast before it could get to us. So you don't look at you don't micromanage like this, but I find it fascinating in the game, the way it does work. Now it's using, because there's no small craft and there's no missiles, this one is now using its Sentinel Beams to actually using as an offensive weapon against our ship. So it's done 1 point of damage on our shields. That's what's happening with that one through there. And you can see when I click on this one, it's actually we can see what's targeting it. If I click on that one through there, that's being targeted. That one is targeting back that way. This one is being targeted by something. I'm not sure exactly what just yet. These ships are still trying to, their reactor is offline at this point in time. That one has taken damage from, it must be from one of the deal breaker beams again. Like it's actually smashed its way through, hit the hull, and then actually taken out one of the reactors. So that ship is now basically dead in the water. And it won't be able to jump until it repairs, but it won't be much damage, so the repair crews will get to work on that one. We can see that there's iron beams coming in as well, and more missiles coming in as well. So the iron beam will try to disable. We'll just see if we can actually get something happening with that. What's it going after? It's going after this one here. It missed. So there's sort of like there's a chance it's going to hit or miss as well. We're now sort of getting into range for our ships to be able to now target the actual station itself. We do still have other ships coming in to attack ours. Sometimes it's worth dealing with the ships before you deal with the station, but let's just keep on going with the station. Again, you can see that our deal breaker beams are breaking through the shielding into the armor, but we've done a little bit of damage. Actually, no, not much damage at all to the hull yet. That will change as the deal breaker beams becoming more involved. Again, lots and lots of sentinel beams. The deal breaker beams are now hitting this one. We're seeing damage being done. It'll take a little while for this to actually come through. And again, the sentinel beams will just get anything that's a threat coming in. So we're now seeing lots and lots of deal breaker beams sort of hitting this particular ship. Now we've actually got the iron weapons that we've got, the iron cannons on our frigates are starting to now do damage. And you'll see in that column there for the weapons, one of the weapons is in the blue disabled area, and that's the iron weapons has gone in and done that one through there. So if we have a look at at this one, the concussion missile is down for 5 seconds through iron damage. But we also have now taken out one of the concussion missiles for a deal breaker beam. Has actually cut through the hull and sort of done damage straight through there. Tractor beam has actually been knocked out, and one of these sentinel multi-beams has been knocked out as well. So we're slowly just doing damage. When you see damage, when you see your iron weapon damage, that will just come back on its own. When you see damage like this, they have to use their damage control unit to go around and try to fix it up. But in this case, we're making very, very quick inroads using this big deal breaker beam. It's actually doing a good job. These guys here are actually now targeting this particular frigate, and it's now trying to escape because it's taken some iron damage, and it's also one of its engines has been knocked out by the deal breaker beam by the looks of things. There's another another iron cannon going in that way. Iron cannons coming in this way, but it looks like it's missed unless it's hitting that ship there. So they'll sort of just figure out their own targets. I haven't given any orders at all to any of these ships. I'm just sort of watching what's happening. Now that iron beam did actually hit, and so we do have iron damage. So it's knocked out another one of the engines. So it's only got one engine operational at this stage. It's now trying to escape, and one of its weapons has been knocked out. So this little combination that we have is really, really good at nullifying combat, but it's not very good at finishing things off, as we'll soon see. So we're slowly whittling away the shields and the armor. The damage that's done to there's only 5 operational weapons left on the station already, and it's still got all its weapons up. If that was normal weaponry, we wouldn't be able to do anywhere near that sort of damage on the internals. So we just have to keep these things going. There's more iron weapons coming back out this way as well. We're taking a bit more damage out this other side. That first heavy escort is now actually repairing its armor. So it's actually getting back on top of where it was. So even after that first attack. Again, we're not seeing much damage happening through here, but ultimately it will strip apart the internals. So we just got to keep it going. And this is why we can't have too much coming back in. This reactor is still offline. It's got all its weapons. And what else have we got? We've got another one through there going off to repairs. It's refueling at that stage. It's taken iron damage. So we're still attacking all of these different things. We are still starting to strip apart the areas back through here. If I just go back to my first fleet, I'm going to tell my guys, we're going to experiment with this. I forgot to do this one. I'm going to tell it to capture this particular one. As soon as the shields go down to nothing, or down to very, very low, they will send troops in to try to take this one over, which I don't think they can do, but we'll see how we go. And again, there's iron damage. Look at the weapons. We've got 3 normal weapons. The iron cannons have actually disabled 5 of them. One of them has now been destroyed, so the deal breaker beams have actually smashed their way through the hull. And if we have a look and see, one of them will be red, which is, that one's still damaged. Yeah, that one's damaged, and so these are all damaged, but also been knocked out with iron weapons. Which one is red? I'm not seeing it there. That one there. Sentinel multi-beam, I think, has been destroyed. So it's been disabled, but also destroyed. And again, our Sentinel beams are protecting our fleet. There goes more iron weapons going back in. Now, as soon as that drops, just go and have another quick look. We've still got 668 boarding assault strength. Our maximum is double that, but we've actually used some of it just to sort of... I don't know why it uses it up. I wish it wouldn't. But anyway, that's now ready to... essentially, as soon as those shields drop, we should start to see troops on board. So they'll actually then send troops, and I'll try to show when that actually does happen. Most of my... I think it's most of these guys have got assault pods on board. So they've got little assault pods which can then go and sort of try to take over enemy ships. I'm not sure if these do. Oh, this deal breaker, so Tailsly Fox, who is in the chat, has actually now taken damage and is now jumping away. So if I give orders, that will then override this order to try to escape. But at the moment, his shielding has come right down. So his shields are down to 6%, or 6 is the number. The armor is also down to 29, and so he's starting to now take damage. So his weapons and defenses are coming down. So he's going to jump out of this fight and escape. So let's just watch and see what actually happens with him. So before anything happens in through here, still trying to disable. We need to get these shields down. And another big blast. What are you doing? That one's also trying to escape as well. The Prime Banshee. So these two ships have now had enough because of the damage that's been done. And again, with the ships themselves, you can actually tell them how to respond in fights. So if we have a look and see why it's doing that one there, you can see there retreat when shields are below 20% or armor is below 50%. In this case, the shields are still up above 20%, but the armor has dropped below 50, so it's getting out of there. Tailsly Fox. The shields went below 20, the armor was still above 50, so it's jumping out of there. So this is sort of like I like this one here for the retreats because it then sort of allows the ships to save themselves. So typically they will get away from the fights usually. Sometimes they won't be able to, but normally they will be able to. Go back to the first again. And still trying to disable, actually, let's just watch this one. Now that's very, very low with the... here they come. These here are the assault pods. So this is like a little assault pod, little Haakonish assault pod coming in to, and we can see them all across through here. They're all going to be trying to land on this particular thing. And again, we've got 3 weapons are still disabled, 1 sensor is disabled. But you can see it's even though we're doing damage on the internals, we're sort of just peppering away, and so it's difficult to finish things off. We can do a lot of damage initially, but just the finishing off is hard. And so we'll find that this will now end up with these assault pods on board. So we now actually have, and we're not going to be able to take this one. This has got defenders there are 900. So and our assault strength there is only 574. So some of those have been shot down with sentinel beams and things that, like before they could actually arrive. But they will go through now and start. You'll see the iron damage. So we've got 311 in the disabled slot. These guys, while they're fighting, will try to disable other things on the ship itself. I'm going to now tell my guys, because they're not going to be able to take this one out. So I'm going to go and tell them that their job now is to attack. So forget about trying to capture. We're not going to be able to do that. So just keep the big beams coming. Just keep on looking to see who else has arrived in the system. So these guys are going to be diminished over time. And we'll find the iron damage will start to increase. So see how through the enemy ship there now, it's got 52213. That's because of all of the guys. And if we have a look and see, they're disabling all sorts of stuff as they go. So there's all sorts of stuff being disabled now on the actual ship itself by that crew, which will then allow things to then drop, and so we'll then be able to do even more damage to the actual ship. Just keep it going. We'll just keep on focusing on this particular station. But it is hard for the deal breaker beams to ultimately do the damage to destroy these things effectively. This guy's still just popping around. He's got nothing much to do. These ships are probably all going to be trying to escape, I would imagine. It's the Beacon, the flagship. Yeah, we're down to just, they've pushed us right out now. The Beacon, why are you in so close? He's taking damage. He's taking the brunt, but there's not much left here. Reactor is now offline. There's no fuel on board, so weaponry is not going to be a problem from that one. So now we're just really getting into the hull. And again, it's just hard for us to do the final damage. But that's a really good illustration of why the deal breaker beam is so good in the initial parts of a fight, but then really not that good when it comes to this part of it, because the damage rate is now still really, really low. So imagine if we now had railgun. So here we go, we are getting it down now. There's more enemy ships, enemy pirate ships coming through. This is Tailsly Fox coming back in again. It's now come up above the 20%. Bang, he's gone. So what we want to do here, so we've got the Beacon in through this other side with Sev, the Admiral Sev on board. There will be an escape pod. There it is there. This is actually the pirate captain. When I take this guy, he will then fight for us, so I do want to get him. I'll bring him on board the Starstream of Mitrani. So I'll just go and tell the Starstream of Mitrani to pick up the escape pod. I don't have to tell it to pick up. These won't do it. There'll be other ships that will then come to try to pick up the loot in amongst this area, but we do want to get this. So where was it? See, there's still enemy ships in around here. There's the escape pod there. Quark has stolen the territory map. So they're sending out an away team to pick up that squad, like the actual leader. While the fight still continues on. What's the Beacon up to? Beacon's got no problem. And when we take this guy, we can then sort of go and do other things. So they're still operating on here. They're still firing at other ships. Comes the Beacon on behind it. There we go. So a foreign pirate leader has been recovered. So while salvaging an escape pod in the Exodar system, we've made the following discovery. So we've essentially rescued him, and he will now fight for us. So if we go back to our characters and have a look at the group. So I've picked up a few different admirals from the pirates. So Azu Thantra has now just come back through. His ship manoeuvring skills and ship speed are bad. His targeting is bad. You know, I probably don't even really want him. Yeah, he's pretty bad, actually. I think we might just dismiss him. I can't see a great value for him at all, to be honest. There we go. We'll dismiss. So anyway, he's gone. But we do have like another one through here, which was actually fairly good. We picked up. This is the last pirate group that we picked up. So so that's the end of that pirate station. The ships are still floating around doing their thing. So these are still the Akdarian outlaws, but they'll eventually be cut to pieces now. So I'll just get our first fleet and start to just finish off these pirate ships if we can. Quite saying Stormtrooper aim. Yes. Yep, so there we go. Hyperdrive is offline, it won't be able to escape. And we don't actually have any more troops at this stage. Just tell it to come after this one now as well. That one is jumping. That one has been disabled, it'll eventually be destroyed. You can see there the finishing though. The finishing of our ships is not great. There we go. So I've finally done that one. It's and actually the Akdarian Outlaws have now been eliminated. We've completely destroyed the Akdarian Outlaws. Great. foreign ships did join us. So after eliminating the Akdarian outlaws, some of their ships have decided to join our empire. 13 ships. Wow. That's actually a hell of a lot. So this is really cool. So they have come our way. That's probably from killing off their old leader. I wonder if that's what it is. I wonder if actually killing the leader actually does it. Now we've actually got a redemption. So von Schweinhund has asked for another admiral, and the only other admiral we've got is the old pirate admiral from over here. So that would be fine. This one is commanding the 2nd Defence Force. So we'll change his name to von Schweinhund. SCH. There we are. All right, so he's got some pretty good skills actually. Starmage saying, I guess 1 or 2 frigates with torpedoes would help in the fleet, a bit more punch for finishing off things. The best value for me is actually not to have those in the fleets. It's actually to strip them apart for technology, because they're going to have shield technology and all these other sorts of things that I would really love to get. When I've been capturing these, if I just go back, instead of filtering by all ships not in a fleet should then just have all of the different pirate ships. Now some of these have taken damage, so it's the Supreme Battle. If there's anything big enough, I'll do it. This one is actually just got no mission. I'm just going to tell these to retire. So I'm going to send all of these back for retirement. This one here as well, this frigate. So I don't, even though they've got good firepower, there's no construction yards available. We'll eventually end up with all of these. I'll set these all just to manual, just that they don't actually do anything. Some of these have taken a bit of damage here. So we'll end up sort of fixing these up. So a lot of these will be sort of like in space where they've escaped. So they're sort of all over the place. Just get that one facing north again. So just so we can sort of look at the range. So we've got these are all the ships that we've just picked up. All these ones here that are sort of out, that don't actually have a group. So I could put them all into our fleet if I wanted to, and then just get rid of them. But I think I'll just leave them. I'll just get them all set to manual, and they'll eventually all just get repaired. And then as construction yards become available, we'll just retire them off. I can also retrofit them up into my own design, but ultimately they do have better technology than what we actually have. Like if you have a look and see what they've got, these have got Corvidian shields, which we don't actually have yet. So their shield penetration chance goes down from 20% to 15% if we can get hold of these. We've got a higher power. That's just standard armor through there. But there will be things in here. Some of the stuff should be more advanced. The Nova Core reactor would be awesome to get hold of, if we can get hold of that one. So we'll slowly sort of we'll just pull these things apart. The turbo thruster engine is another one that we don't actually have. So there's a lot of technology on these ships. That's really the main value for us with those. Now the first fleet has taken a little bit of damage in through here. So this one here has just got slight damage, but it can be still repaired in space. Let's just go back to the first again. And where was another one that was damaged? That's about it, I think. Now we know that there's this other big group up this way. Look, there's heaps of pirates in here. This is a massive, massive pirate group. Sort of deadly gangsters. This is a group of Tekans. Yeah, this is a Blood Claw force. God, there is just so many of them. They're all the same group. And this has been sort of like pulled apart. It's almost been destroyed. What I could do is slightly whittle them away, because if we go and attack this, they're just going to come back and protect it. So getting rid of that one's going to be much more difficult than we think. But the first Refuel and repair. Once I go back to Matrani 3, which is all the way back down into here. If we just go and have a quick look around and just look for the refuelers. So what will tend to happen is, as we sort of get close, actually, sorry, I'll just get rid of the diplomacy. We'll start to see these little symbols here, which just show that there's potential refueling. We do actually have it out here, but it's not really all that safe. There is sort of like Tekan holdings back out this way as well. So they've actually got like, oh, there's a research station which does engine research. These sorts of things would be nice to get hold of eventually. So to sort of use subterfuge to get hold of those sorts of stuff at some point. Anyway, that's sort of that gives a bit of a deep dive into combat. You don't have to do anything near that deep, but we'll just let that one sort of keep on going. We'll just return to the game. Pause. So first, God, do I send it in to try to whittle away some of these enemy ships? There's just so many of them. And again, what we want to do is we want to make sure that they've either got a target or something, otherwise they're going to be all over the place. If I tell it to just come back in and refuel here, it's not really going to work. But let's just try it anyway. So we'll just tell them to go back in there. So we'll actually bring them in to see if they can actually strip away some of these ships. I mean, the job is to get rid of pirates. That's actually what this fleet has been designated to do. Actually, there's too many of their ships that are now out and about. So some of these have actually moved on out. Oh, sorry, this is the that is the. If I go back to the first, yeah, that's okay. No mission, that's okay. We'll just leave them where they are. Oh, we can retire that one now. Oh, yep. Now we can actually queue these up. Still want to go back and retire. So it's just bouncing in. Oh, it's taking damage from the other pirates. I don't want to scuttle them. Let's get in those orders. I'll just pause that again. Okay, so Wad Ubuntu has evaded detection. I was just doing territory maps. I'll just queue all of these up now. Retire. Yep, so most of these are now just going back to retirement. It's been disabled, so it can only be scuttled if it's been disabled. Alright, let's let it go forward again. Here we go. So this is actually now, they've actually offered us a restricted trade agreement, which is great. So we've been trying to get this, so we're going to accept this treaty. So our first fleet will go in. They'll be a bit all over the place though. And what are you going in to do? It's trying to repair one of the ships. Now this pirate faction here is incredibly strong. So we'll probably just bounce in, do a little bit of damage and then bounce back out again. So have a quick look and see what we've got queued up. So we're just trying to get basic diplomacy as well for getting things sorted. Let's just go back down to the other bits and pieces that we actually end up having. Yeah, these are the ones that we want to then get hold of. Now this one here, if we go and get this one, it's going to take a long time to get that level. We've got system governance as well, which is going to take 13 years. The reason we want to get these is the colony corruption reduction of 20% is massive. That, again, just gives us more money. But we're doing okay with money at this stage, so I think I'll just keep on going this way, trying to get the better weaponry. You can see there we're making a lot of money overall. So if it wasn't a spy, I would have liked to be that admiral. Yes, it's a good admiral. The Ikaru pirate that we've got. So this is really like Wild West stuff out through here. Then we've got the empires back in through this other side. Now we're not finding homeworlds, and we do need to be finding the. I want to get the human homeworld so I can send an ambassador out that way. It's under attack by. The Iron Aggressor pirate faction. I think they're coming from over here. So if we can start to stitch things up with trade networks, it's going to then make it easier for us. Construction of a new mining station has been completed at Lost Miracle. Good. Your resort base, that's good. Mining station, that's good as well. I've just got all that stuff set to automatic, but it's just telling me when it's done stuff. They're all coming in. This isn't going to last long. Here they come. Here they come. What I might do... Oh, here we go. I found the Akdarians. Gone poorly, unfortunately. So, we're not the friendliest people. Let's dismiss that one. What we might get up to here is actually telling them to specifically go and target a ship. Still more of these pirates around. This should give us more connection. It's another fleet. Lost that mining station. He's a beacon on his own. Come on, guys. This can't go well. This one is coming out to target us. Where's the rest of them? They're spooling up their jump drives. Resort base, that doesn't really matter. Now, this is actually one of the new things that's come in the update as well, is the advisor, like we've got the advisor suggestions through here, assign mission. So I can send a third fleet out to prepare an attack at Gravelex. So it's actually asking me what I want to do with that one through there. So I can either assign the mission or decline it, but it's then telling me what the automation settings are. So where I've got something where the automation settings are impacting messaging or advice that's coming through, it will give me the option to go and cycle through the actual, what we're doing. So at the moment, the military attacks are set to suggest. So click to cycle through the next setting. So I can cycle through from suggest through to manual, through to automated, through to suggest and execute, and then back to suggest. So I can actually cycle through the settings, which means I don't have to go back through to the settings up through here. I can just do it straight from here if it's something that I want to be impacting the game, which then also means that a lot of the comments you sort of see that are negative about the game are people not understanding really or grasping what they can do to alleviate spam that seems to be coming through from the AI, for example, as they're playing. Like if they don't want these, if they just want it to go off and do it automatically, they can go and do that one, or they can go straight to the actual policy screen from here as well. So this is actually quite an innovative little thing to do. It just makes everything accessible, so that at least the automation settings you can change the ones that annoy you. Anyway, I'll assign the mission. I'm happy for it to keep on suggesting them. But I've got to say, I'm quite impressed with that. Beacon is now firing against this one. Come on, guys. Still okay. They're coming in now? Yes, they are. Now we're going to be all over the place when these do arrive. Here they come. See how Beacon's way out in front. I'm going to tell Beacon to move back so I can get the individual ships and just tell them to get back out of there. Otherwise he's going to be in too much trouble. This fleet has still kept good cohesion. Now to get all of these I can just press Control and just marquee select and just tell them to go as a group just to move up to there. That way at least Beacon can... Oh, hang on. So what Bunta has been detected, but he trying to get the Boscaro simulation core. That's all right. Doesn't really matter that much. Just want them all together so I can then sort of operate with them. I don't want one ship going off and doing their own thing. Alright, let's get rid of these now. We better just sit back and watch. Wow, look at them all. Yep, they've had enough of us. I think this is going to be way too much for us, actually. I think we'll get out of here. This is just too strong for us, these pirates. So we'll tell them to go back home again to Matrani. So we'll just go and tell them to refuel back at the spaceport. So it'll be given to the whole fleet. And their home base is Yantra 4, which was under attack by pirates, we've now sort of alleviated that as such. Those pirates are really operating way further back. So we'll actually just leave them now to come back to Matrani, and I might change the home base for them. Actually, I'll just make it the Matrani spaceport. That way I can just automate from that level. So for the first fleet, just going to do a long right click on the spaceport, set the home base for the first fleet to there. So I've got the first fleet selected. I can then just go, I've still got the order to refuel, but I can then just go back down and just tell it, okay, you're going to defend this area. And we'll set that one to, say, 100M range. That way they can sort of, they can at least go out a little bit So we go back to the first. So that's going to be the area that they are then operating. But they need to extract themselves from back in here first. Again, there's a lot of pirate ships now coming back in. They're gone. Farewell, pirates. A little bit too strong for us. So Toygar, I think, Daz, you had North Africa campaign playlisted for total operational Art of War 4. What happened? I got hacked a few years ago now, but all my videos were basically I have to go back manually and load them all in. So I just haven't got back to republishing everything because it's a pain in the bum. So it's just annoying. These guys are just going off and doing their raid now. They're just going off to attack the creatures that are sort of stopping us from trading back and through here. Oh, here we go. Now we actually recovered another pirate leader somewhere else. Now if I just go back and hover over that one, it's come from this one here. I thought I had already picked it up, but I hadn't picked it up. So there was a pirate leader here. I knew it was the Tekans that we had attacked down in here somewhere. So where was it? It's one of our construction ships was actually just here going through the old the loot that's left over in space. So they've actually found this pirate. I'll just go and dismiss the message. Have a quick look at it, see what his skill set actually is. Yeah, there he is. And again, he's got some negatives. He's not terrible though. He's not terrible. Give him the third fleet. Alright, so he'll be another admiral that we now have, an old pirate admiral. Now the reason we want to get these Thuon beams is to supplement the damage that we do, so we can just sort of do more direct damage when we need to, which will ultimately sort of just mean that we can then destroy things a bit faster. Oh, it's scenery, that's not going to help us much. And again, the computer core is still being pulled apart through here. So we're finding detailed maps on different systems that the pirates actually had. This is still our biggest threat. Oh, wow. Now that is massive. This changes a lot. This is 21% engine research from magma distortion. Oh, hang on, no, they already had that. Yeah, they already had it. Yeah, this is the one. So that's already the research station that the Tekans have got established. I would have liked that myself. I need to get more research centres. So they're going to be raiding, taking money. Decline that. This little empire in here has grown quite strongly. Now the Artooks have got this little world over here, which I did want to get hold of, but we're not going to be able to really get it. They're an important trade partner at the moment, but we will have to expand somewhere. So yeah, with what's going on, if we have a look at the resources and just look at the luxuries, yeah, we've got one source of Zentavia fluid, which is back over there, that we're aware of, and we haven't come across the Loris fruit yet or the Caribbean spice, which we do want to get hold of. We want to control one of those worlds. Quark has evaded detection. Mission failed though. We already know what's going on with them. We've got a lot of money here. If I can stitch them up, they won't attack us, and that's or they be rare for them to attack us. We might just have a quick look at diplomacy with these guys in mind, and go to like claw feet detected. That was back over here. We'll dismiss that. Yeah, so these guys here, -6. We are trading a little bit with them, but we like making it official would be good. So we need to get there. If we go to offer treaties and we go to offer restricted agreement, so they won't actually do it at this stage. So no, we're not interested in that particular one. But we can try to do things with them. I'm just going to go goodbye. Actually, I'll just speak with them again. We'll send them a gift, a big gift. Now, they do like that, and that's gone to +10. I can now go to offer treaties and offer the restricted trade agreement, which they should then accept. So we've gone from -5 to +10, like we've done 15 extra damage, extra into that one. But what this will then do is it will now allow us to smarm our way into their good graces. So we'll go and do that one now. So we now actually have this restricted trade agreement. And because we're playing as the Haakonish, it's difficult for other factions to leave those agreements. So they can do it, but it's sort of it's at a cost to them. So it's almost not worth them doing that. Now, one thing we can do, let's just say that we're in a position to take them over. That's what we could do, is the trade exploits. So we could actually end up, sort of causing issue with the relationship with them if we wanted to. But slowly this will rust very quickly. But we've got we've got what we needed. Now we've got the limited trade agreement. The free trade agreement would be good for some of them. We got what we wanted though. So we've actually now sort of made it so it's difficult for them to declare war on us. Invaded, taken over. So this is actually, so they're actually taking over other worlds. They're our biggest threat. So, other than the pirates, of course. So we can now start to build up for the pirates and start to sort of get things ready for them. So we may build like a super fleet, but we'll just wait until we get a bit more tech. Oh, now that's interesting. How did we find? Oh, we've picked this up, I think, from Pirate Loot. Discovered hidden items. How did we discover that? Oh no, we do have a ship there. So this one's exploring this system, and in the meantime, they have actually discovered that this one does actually have. That's just incredibly good. I'm going to tell that ship to immediately go there. If I press the back arrow, I can then pick whatever I had selected there before. This is a explorer ship which is on automatic, but I'm going to go and tell it to go and search this. So this seems to be too good to be true. Let's just go and survey Hermes. I can then just tell it to go back to fully automate afterwards. Now off she goes. I wouldn't be at all surprised once we get close that there'll be some negative thing here. There's rifts in space around it. I'll dismiss that one. That's just an attack that's going in. So we're inside like an area which is a bit of a problem. These guys have got the Oh no, they don't actually have what we thought. I thought it actually had the energy shield. That's okay. So it's coming in. Oh, this is really interesting. Again, this is one of these little things where it's just a little secret immersion stuff that's going on. What actually happened was we found these things through visuals. So you can see then the exploration level here is only 1. So what's actually happened is we've actually come through with the with this ship. It arrived in the system, and its actual sensors. It's got like a resource scanner, which has got an exploration range of 5,000, and an advanced survey module there, where it's got the survey amount can do 15. So it's going to actually send this one down onto the planet itself. Now this one here will ultimately what this one will do is it'll do a blip and get up to 5 initially, the exploration power, but the survey will get up to 15. So at the moment we've been able to discover those things readily from the surface. We should be able to build what we need to build. I don't know why that's not actually opened up to us. So the Boscarans are up this way. Don't need to worry about that one. That's nothing to do with us. Oh, here we go. So there, I knew this is going to be too good to be true. So we've got these Gravelexes. Well, these guys are out of fuel, so we're waiting for the first fleet. Then we'll send them out to help protect this. This one is surveying, so it's going to send the away team when it gets close enough. But those Gravelexes are going to cause issues for us. The Haakonish system. This is not what this system is. Look at them all. We want this. We definitely want this as a research station. Just not sure why it hasn't come up yet. Let's do the exploration. That way it'll do its blip. So it's going to spend 45 seconds to scan this one. So you can see there it's down to 35 seconds now. So at least we can then get the up to level 5. So at the moment it's at visual. 5 is just basic resource scanner stuff. So just wait for that to come back through. Just before these Gravelexes arrive. And then survey is to send the away teams onto the ground. There's still unknown resources here. Down to 2 seconds, 1 second, 0 seconds. So now it's exploring. It's still coming back through. So it's now gone up to 5, and we now have 3. We've now got sort of like Aculon, and I can now start to build the research station. So I'm going to go and tell it to be built. We will have to protect this as well, but we'll get that one done. And look, I might as well go and get a mining station here as well. So that's now sending in for 108 seconds. If we have a quick look at its design again, the survey module is 110 seconds. So it's actually now sending an away team. And we should start to see, that's an away team there. So sending out little probes down to the surface of this world. And again, we'll just go and tell this surly lady to then just go and be fully automated. So there's still hidden things on the location. So there's still unknown items are present. So we need to get our survey levels up. Independent colony of Dayots has been encountered. Yeah, there's got a planetary shield generator on that world. Now this is actually interesting. We've now actually taken the the Boscara Assimilation Core. We've actually now taken their territory map, which is why we're sort of getting these different discoveries. So if we have a look back out again, we've now found this because it's inside their territory. So they're sort of operating fairly like that's, and this is sort of going to really be in their sphere. So getting the Boscara to also, they're not going to honour the trade agreements. That's not going to worry them. We may need to fight them at some point. So this first one will then take this one from 5 to 15, and then it can just keep on doing it slowly to try to get more of it. And if it finds everything it needs to find, then it will then turn around and go, the Xenox. They're naturally hostile towards us, but it has been extremely successful. So this is actually them, -2. Let's see where they actually are first. Actually, I should have kept that other ship, sorry, the discovery message open. So that's interesting. So this is actually the Mortallans out now fighting the humans. Not sure where this other faction is. So what I can do is I can just bring back down the message log. Go and click on that one. No, I'm not coming across them. I'm not sure where that actually was triggered from. All right. Well, they're not close enough for us to really worry about trying to get, like a close relationship with them. Not sure what we need to have to get this limited trade agreement. But this is actually something where I would like to get access to their special goods. It's worth a lot. So let's just go back out. Send a gift. We'll send a large gift. Then we'll offer treaties again. No, we still can't do it. Up to plus 23. We'll just put it out there that that's what we're looking for. Trying to get them as friendly with us as possible. And we do have a lot of money. So Grimdark is saying, hey Daz, thanks for all the coverage on this game. I learned to play through your videos. My one complaint about this game is the CPU requirements. My 5600 GT can't handle big galaxies. Yeah, there is actually, at least it tells you when your computer system's going to struggle. I tend to only play on sort of like the default size anyway, which is big enough in my opinion. You certainly get all the different interplays going on with everything. This is quite interesting what's going on in here. So they've got an Ignari group there. Fleets are attacking each other. This has nothing to do with us. They've run out of fuel. Yeah, they're almost completely out of fuel. Keep them sort of thumping along. So we're saying just joined, and the first thing I hear is Boscara don't honour their trade agreements, and I'm like, yes, that sounds like the Boscara I know. Yes. So we're sort of we're trying to create trade blocks. There we go. We've now finished off our Thuon beams. Yeah, so we've got this one into here. Now I've actually got another stream I've got to do in a couple of hours' time, actually, over on the Slytherin channel. So what I might do is I might actually leave it here. We've actually now sort of got that particular one. I might just go and get the basic Tekan language, and we'll just go and pay for that one. Pay the cost. It doesn't cost much, and we can then halve the time it's going to take to get hold of those. And we'll get the Mortlands as well. The Artooks, if we want to befriend them, I should get even more of those. So I never usually bother with this, but it's actually important for us this time. I'm thinking I wouldn't mind also getting destroyers. So we've got the improved frigates, which would be nice to get. That's going to be 4 and a bit years. But the interstellar destroyers, that's going to be 5 years. Now I might throw that one into the mix as well. We'll pay the cost there and just move it up. That way we can sort of put more equipment on the actual ships themselves. So yeah, we've got a lot more weaponry on. So just supplementing our fleets with those would be really, really quite nice. We've got a little bit of an advanced start because we're pulling things apart, which is fine. We're getting a bit of a head start in here as well. As we get more and more of these ships down, it'll be helpful. The ablative shields. Hopefully we'll sort of just get these stuff by pulling apart the pirate ships, which would be very, very nice. All right, we'll exit the research there. But I think I'll actually leave this one here, and then when I do the Slytherin stream, I'll probably sort of do more of this interaction between the actual factions, because we've sort of dealt with the pirates in this group. We dealt with combat, which has nothing to do with the actual update. But the Slytherin stream, I will need to sort of then cover the differences here again. I'll probably just focus on the Haakonish purely. But anyway, if you're around, I'll catch you over on their channel in a couple of hours. So I'll be playing Distant Worlds 2. It's I've sort of got this is the essentially the update stream for Slytherin is what I'll be showing on their channel. So, and I wanted to do it on my channel as well. So I sort of wanted to get to a position where, I mean, there's not a hell of a lot going on. It's not as if there's big threats, but we are managing our way through space, through diplomacy and trade, really, at this stage. And we just need to get more and more powerful. The more powerful we can get through trade, that means we're going to be able to then start to push our weight around when we do find the high-level planets. I really do want this planet very, very desperately, and I don't know how I can get that myself without, crashing, killing off my my reputation. But I really do want this one. I was hoping to get this world here, and that would then give me this. That's still maybe something we can try to do, but I don't know how we can then go and do it. Almost need somebody else aggressive to come and take it. So I've got an excuse to go and do it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you over on the Slytherin channel, or I'll be back here again tomorrow. I'll see you one way or another, hopefully. Yep, so approximately in a couple of hours? Yes, in about... in space, I'm scheduled to start in 1 hour 55 minutes. That's my scheduled time. I will come in a bit earlier and just see, because I think that Hexabu is supposed to be playing some of the Rune Quest game, I believe. I don't know, and he's sort of got priority with that. They're trying to really sort of throw that one out there this week, but sometimes he finishes his bits a bit early with that particular game. And if that's the case, I will start early, because I have to finish basically exactly 2 hours later, so I can't actually hover around. So if he's finishes off his stream early, then I'll try to get in a bit earlier as well. So I'll probably start hovering around there about half an hour earlier. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.